Hey everybody, welcome to another rendition of Mir Musk, episode 24, the Cam VanDerHorst interview. And honestly, it is an honor, sir, to have you on the show. You're probably one of the greatest comedians to come out of Cleveland
Oh,
in the
thank you.
modern era, I would say to some extent.
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. Sorry, go ahead. Keep going with your intro.
No, you're good. I just want to say, Cam is he's a very, I would say, generous and gracious comedian. He's a man of the people. He's a race car driver on this. Is it your main career or is it comedy that's your main
I
career?
don't really have a main career right now, so mediocre comic and mediocre race car driver, kind of like
Right,
He's a
right,
man
right.
of leisure.
they do definitely
Right.
they do definitely feed into each other because I've gotten opportunities as a comic because people think it's interesting that I race, and then I've got opportunities in racing because people think it's interesting that I'm a comic. So it definitely helps kind of, I guess, set me apart from the crowd. So
Right. So
And
go ahead, John.
off the top, I just want to address we were supposed to have Ary Jane on. She had an incident come up, and I just want to say prayers to her, and
Yeah.
hopefully everything's okay and speedy recovery. So if you're out there, Ary, watching or listening, we're praying for you. We're hoping everything's all right, and we'll get her on soon. So
Yes.
I know we
Yeah,
promoted
I wanna-
it that way, but we're doing the Cam interview right now. So
I want to check in with her after this podcast is over because I want to bully her into going to the doctor if possible.
Right.
yeah, so
Just because like head injuries or something like obviously that I don't mess around with. I was just telling Lil Mir before the podcast that like the only two things I don't worry about wrecking. The only two things I really worry about are the car catching fire and by extension me catching fire and concussions.
Yeah.
So that's nothing to mess around with. I mean,
I
you
think
know-
she's with someone who's advising her on that
Yeah.
and monitoring it, so she's not alone. So I think everything's
good.
going to be all right. But I just wanted to let the crowd know because I know there's a lot of Ary Jane's like the Helen of Troy of the Hackverse, Dabbleverse. So I know there's a lot of fans here just to see her. But you're stuck with the three amigos tonight. So
That's right. Who's Martin Short?
Ary Jane is an eminently lovable human, and I want the best for her. And I really hope that she's doing okay. So
yeah.
Thoughts and prayers to her. Honestly, she's a
Yeah, for
beautiful,
sure.
amazing lady. So we hope you're okay.
But we'll
Yeah,
get
she's
into
super
Cam
cool.
a little bit here because
That's
you've
right.
got a fascinating story, and I've streamed with you a few times.
Yeah.
And like Mir was leading off the bat. You work at a comedy club, right?
Yeah, so right now, I guess I'll back up a little bit. So I'm the youngest of 5 kids, right?
Okay.
So I don't know if either of you guys are in that situation or
I'm a middle child of 3.
you're a middle child, right? So there's kind of this unspoken understanding that your parents aren't going to be your parents forever. There's going to become a point in time when you have to parent your parents and you have to take care of them as they get older. And what it eventually falls on, or it eventually falls on the shoulders of whatever kid lives closest geographically.
Yeah.
So my comedy club, the Funny Stop, where I really got my start taking comedy seriously as a vocation, is 0.4 of a mile from my house. So I kind of became the go-to guy for the owner when he would go out of town, when he'd go visit Lebanon or when he'd go do football stuff with his son. His son is an amazing football player. His son, who actually is helping to run the club now with his mom, is a better football player than I am a race car driver.
Oh, shit,
Yusuf,
okay.
Yeah, Yusuf Barakat. He's
like
really awesome.
semi-professional, possibly.
Yeah,
is
yeah. He's I think he's starting to get fed up with the politics of it,
Oh, of course, yeah.
which like that's any sport really, right? Like you dedicate
Even
your
high
life
school
to
level.
it. Yeah, and you see people getting opportunities that maybe aren't that don't have the X factors or the intangibles or whatever that you have, or for whatever reason, you know. So
Oh, yeah.
regardless, anyhow, like it's kind of fallen on me to Pete would trust me with taking care of the club and doing the announcements and, you know, being the doorman and very occasionally throwing out drunk idiots. And so when Pete passed away, I kind of decided that that's kind of my thing to do. So I haven't been booking a lot of shows the last few months because I've wanted to make sure that I'm kind of a constant of something they don't really have to worry about. So I had one show booked that I did, and then and then I've got this race coming up. So for the most part, For the most part, really, I've just been working at Funny Stop, and it's been fun. I really want to start booking shows again, though. I almost booked a show. I'm going to be in Seattle this weekend racing, and I almost booked a show for that Friday.
Yeah.
But then I have to wake up on Saturday morning and drive, 2 hours or more in the race car. And I don't know.
You got the endurance, man. You're a race car driver. You got endurance.
I do. I just here's the thing is I know that whatever audience would be paying to see comedy wouldn't be getting 100% of me.
Okay, gotcha.
And my team that has paid a lot of money for me to be there would not be getting 100% of me.
Right.
And I just feel like that's super, it's selfish.
It's integrity
of me.
at that point.
Yeah. So I think there's going to come a point when I will be trying to do more comedy on weekends that I race in the places that I race, but it just, for whatever reason, it didn't feel right. Because the track, as most racetracks are very, very far away from civilization.
Yeah.
So the track I'm racing at this weekend, if you drew a triangle from the state police training center, the state sponsored marijuana farm, and the state prison, the racetrack would be dead center of that. Because racetracks take up a lot of space and they're really noisy. So they're almost always built where property is really, really cheap and really far away from anybody. And then people build McMansion developments right behind the track, and people complain about the noise that was there for 60 hours.
Right.
Or sorry, for 60 years before they moved in.
There you go.
There's been so many great little racetracks that have been lost from people building McMansions behind them. So
right.
I don't think we'll have to worry about that with the Ridge. The Ridge is an excellent facility. So
to go back to your comedy club, that's the club, the guy Pete, that was the big news this summer. He was like a beloved owner, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially with like a lot of New York comics. Like New York comics that didn't like working the Midwest liked working Funny Stop, or at least had stories about working at the Funny Stop as they were coming up. So the beauty of the Funny Stop is that you can look at a picture taken inside Funny Stop,
okay,
and you can't tell what year it's from. Like
Nice,
it just has this beautiful vibe as this like boom era comedy club, because I read a lot. I love comedy. And I read a lot about the history of comedy, and I'm fascinated by these boom eras of stand-up where there was a period of time when like a guy like me could make in the six figures just touring the Midwest and like not have video anywhere. Nobody knows who I am. I would just go to all these, like every little medium-sized town that was adjacent to a medium-sized or small city would have a little comedy club, and you could go there and work. And Funny Stop is like one of the last one of those places still standing. And it was because, I mean,
it's a true American landmark, basically.
Yeah. And Pete did such a good job running that club. And he was at a point in his career where I think he was a few years away from selling the club. And he was just willing to talk about how the business worked. And he taught me a lot about how the business worked. And I mean, shit. I mean, when he died, sorry, I didn't mean to cuss. I don't know if we can cuss on here.
Oh, yeah.
No, you can say fag, you can say homo. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. I mean, I can't because I have sponsors.
Yeah.
And I don't even think those words.
You don't say any of that. Don't say any of that. I can say that because I don't have it.
So when he passed away, I mean, I cried more as an adult man than I probably have at any point in my life. And my own father called me to check in on me, and he said he was like a father. My own father said Pete was like a father to you.
Holy shit, okay.
So, I mean, like it was readily apparent how much of an impact he had on everybody.
Right.
And like I can't say enough about him. I don't want to get I feel bad for getting like too inside baseball about.
No, go ahead, do your thing.
Because I hate those podcasts that are all talking about the craft of comedy, right? It's like, who cares, Just get on stage, shut up, and tell dick jokes. That's what you do best.
Dance, monkey, dance.
Right.
Basically.
And I respect that. But, yeah, Pete was really, really important to me. He used to say, I feel like I'm pretty good at doing his accent. He had this very thick Lebanese accent. Like, because I work the sound booth, right? And I haven't cleaned anything up, but because of that very guttural, Middle Eastern accent of his, like everything was just covered in like dried spit. It's kind of disgusting.
Yeah, let me hear it.
I can't bring myself to clean it up back there though, but he'd go, "Comedy tough, man." And I'm putting comedy tough on the car when we're racing this weekend, and just every car I race from now on is gonna have comedy tough on it for Pete. So
how did he
an
how did he pass? Did he just old age or
he had
was
an
it-
aneurysm. He had an
Oh,
aneurysm.
see, that's what I'm saying about
This is-
concussions
yeah,
and shit,
this
bro.
is
That's
what's
scary
so
too.
wild.
Brain aneurysms.
Yeah, I was home watching the Xfinity race because my buddy, it was the Chicago street race weekend. I'll never forget this because I was watching my buddy. He got a ton of TV time. And I was watching the Xfinity race.
Yeah.
And I got a text from the headliner that weekend, who's a friend of mine, said, "Hey, Pete's in the ICU. Can you come run the sound?" And I was concerned. But Pete had diabetes and he managed it pretty well, but he was also like a really hardworking guy. So like sometimes he
Might
would like
spike the
kind of have
levels
to,
a little bit.
yeah, like his levels would spike and stuff. And he was getting older. He was in his mid 60s. So I was like, okay, like trying to very, very concerned, but trying to look at it the best. By the end of that night, he had passed.
Oh shit. Okay.
Jeez.
So it happened really, really fast. But apparently while he was in the ICU, they were trying to put him in a wheelchair and he was like yelling and telling people not that he wasn't going to sit in the wheelchair.
That's horrible.
And
Jesus.
I thought that was like, it's just so hilariously Pete that he was like, no, I'm not getting in a wheelchair.
Fuck
F
you guys.
Yeah.
Now kicking and screaming.
It's a good movie.
So it's kind of funny that he went out, I guess, on his own terms,
Right.
but it was a weird situation. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but
Yeah.
No, you're good, man. So let's come back a little bit towards your early let's say career with comedy and racing.
Yeah.
What came first? What was your first love, comedy or racing, in your opinion?
Racing was definitely my first love, for sure.
Why is that? What got you into racing?
Well, I'll say the reason why is because we couldn't afford cable growing up.
You gotta entertain yourself somehow.
I'm dead serious, right? Like, So we got cable when I was like, let's see here, I was in the 8th grade.
Okay.
We got cable, and I remember being so excited that I could watch all 24 hours of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which, like, I don't recommend it unless you're like 12 years old and you love racing. And then we got Comedy Central, and I just obsessively watched Comedy Central. And that's when they bought the rights to air the Blue Collar Comedy Tour really cheap, and they were playing it constantly.
Yeah.
And it was so funny to me as somebody who hadn't seen a lot of comedy before then. And I still think that special holds up. Like, but I remember watching it in secret. Like, it was around Thanksgiving, and I remember all they were playing was the South Park Thanksgiving episode where Timmy rescues the turkey, and the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. And I would watch the Blue Collar Comedy Tour like in secret because it was so funny. I'm like, there's 100% chance I'm going to get in trouble. Like, nothing this funny
should
is
be
something I'm allowed to see.
right.
So I remember like my whole family was over, and my sisters caught me watching it, and like the whole family watched it and just got huge into it. And that really stuck with me as a memory. But like, I've loved comedy, since forever. I was always kind of a funny kid, I guess. Like, I wasn't like a class clown. I think Norm Macdonald said, like, the people that make great stand-ups aren't the class clown. They're like the quiet
You're just
kids
witty.
in the back.
You just you're very quick-witted.
I guess.
Okay.
I feel weird saying that about myself, right? Like, that's kind of I don't like saying good things about myself because I've born and raised in the Midwest.
Why not, though? I mean, that is true. I'm from the Midwest. I mean, we all...
Yeah, like, we don't like saying anything good about ourselves.
Yeah, other people say, hey, you did great. You're like, yeah, all right. You know, you're like, okay, you can maybe pat me on the back.
If a guy from, like, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Western Pennsylvania, if one of those guys, like, cured leukemia, they'd be like, well, I didn't cure all forms of cancer.
Right.
Like, that's just very much how we were raised. So, but yeah, like, I loved Blue Collar Comedy Tour, and then like I saw all kinds of specials. For some reason, this is like a really weird hill to die on, but like I need to stress that I haven't watched a Dane Cook special or listened to any Dane
I don't know
Cook
who the fuck
since
that
I was
is,
like
low-key.
16. But it bothers me that everybody loved him, and then everybody pretends like they never did. Like, it's very like too cool for the room, kind of like. He was the first comic to really like harness the power of social media. So
I really thought Dane Cook was the dude who won American Idol until I figured out he was, that Cook dude who won. I don't know. Until like recently, I kind of figured out he was a comedian, not a. I thought he was a singer. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Well, he would bring out his like guitar at the end and do that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, so I mean, like, racing was my first love just due to exposure. Like, my earliest memory is my parents taking me to a car show.
Yeah.
And just I've loved racing since forever. I grew up in like a very middle class family with a lot of kids. So
Right. What was your first experience on the racetrack that wasn't go-karts, and how was that for you?
Really, I mean, honestly, I did autocrossing and go-karts as much as I could until I had the money together to
What'd you autocross in?
78 MG midget, dead
shit,
stock. It was a
okay.
48,000 mile show car. It was like perfect.
Right.
And
What class is that?
so it was. I almost got kicked out of my very first autocross for getting in a fight, and this was like back when I was like still a good boy and like respected authority. I was 16, 17 years old.
What the fuck they say to you to almost get you kicked out of an autocross event, bro?
They wanted to put me in like this. It was just. They wanted to put me in a class, like a higher class, because the car was modified, because this car was dead stock, except it had an electronic ignition on it.
Okay.
And they said that was a performance upgrade. So I would have to move up into this class where I'd be racing with like guys that had like tuned WRXs and Evos at the time.
Yeah, there's Subies, bro.
And I'm like, listen, the electronic ignition isn't to make the car faster. It's to make sure I get here in the first place.
Right.
And like I almost got thrown out. I actually don't do SCCA autocrosses anymore. I do
Really?
autocross with my Porsche club. So it's kind of ridiculous because I'm in like this open class now.
Mm.
So like it's a mishmash of everything, because all the Porsches have their own classes, but you know, I'm kind of with everything. I'll give SCCA a try. I'm willing to believe that I just got caught with like a couple of just Anaraki old men. It was all old men with E30 BMWs and British sports cars like mine, right?
You ever heard of Misfit Toys at all?
Misfit Toys?
Yeah.
What's Misfit Toys?
It's a we call it an organization basically of all the older gentlemen, but we kind of do what you guys do, kind of mix and match everything and just run times and whatnot for autocrossing. I do that with my Fiat Abarth because I have that 500 turbocharged one.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have this is going to sound like a backhanded compliment. It's going to sound super shitty. I'm saying this is somebody that loves those cars. I have respect for anybody that keeps one of those things alive.
I'm keeping it alive right now, dude. Going like I think keeping it 8 years strong right now.
That's awesome. One of my best friends bought one brand new, and the parcel tray started sagging, and there was like a sheen on the steering wheel at like 8,000 miles, and Fiat wouldn't do anything about it. And he got so frustrated that he traded it in and rolled all the negative equity into a Mitsubishi Mirage. I
mean, they're shitty cars because they're made in Serbia, and they really didn't give a fuck how they made them. They're pretty cheap fucking cars, but once you start upgrading them and adding shit to them, they can last a long while as long as you don't kick the shit out of them. Only time I ever kick the shit out of it is when I take it autocrossing. But other than that,
I differ with like, so I didn't grow up in like a car family. My parents are boomers, so they just like lucked into owning cool cars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like my parents have owned, like my mom owned a brand new 68 Camaro when she graduated high school. My dad had a 327 4-speed Impala, and he was going to get the 427 and mom wouldn't let him. And like they had MGs and Triumphs and Corvettes and stuff like that all years before I was born. I was the youngest of 5.
Yeah.
So I just kind of came into it honestly, like on my own, being a car guy. But my dad like would always at first he would get really upset about me beating on a car by like autocrossing it or like doing track days and stuff with it. I'm like, Dad, this is what the car is built for. If you maintain the car and you take good care of the car is not going to be upset when you exercise it.
Right.
But then like I look at all those like people that like you look at shelter animals that are like all overfed and under exercised.
Yeah.
And it's all boomers that have passed away that have like these 30-pound cats and these like 30-pound pugs that are in shelters now. And I'm like, that logic makes sense. Like my parents weren't plastic on the furniture people, but they were of that generation that like
very frugal.
We got lucky. My grandpa used to race semi-professional back in the 50s and 60s.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, he won a Kids Choice Award when I think they had their inaugural like day when they first opened up and shit. He won it for like best looking car or some crazy shit. He has like a award for us, his Kids Choice Award and everything.
That's cool. Where did he race?
In Arizona and shit like that.
Arizona?
Yeah, Arizona. He was pretty damn good, but didn't have the money till he started working on the railroad and shit like that. But
It's so frustrating. Like, and this is going to sound totally hypocritical. But I get, because of comedy and because of my personality and because I know how to sell myself and sell sponsorship and do all of the off track stuff.
yeah,
There are people way
You're a
more
businessman.
talented than me that aren't getting some of the opportunities I am.
That's in everything though.
Because
You're a businessman.
Yeah, because they don't know that they're so good at racing that they don't. It's like music and everything too, right? Like the most talented drummers and bassists and guitarists in the world are teaching English or flipping burgers or stocking warehouses someplace because they can't work in a band
It's a
environment.
combination. You need to have
Yeah,
the skill
there's-
and the drive and that.
I mean, you're
Direction.
are you somewhat of a performer though? You put on a good show, right?
I feel like it. Like there was an endurance race I did earlier this year that was live streamed. That it was the world's first of its kind. It was the electric rental go-karts that we've all driven, and it was a 12-hour endurance race. And basically, there were a bunch of people that signed up with teams of people that had known each other and practiced with each other for like months to years. And then all the rest of us were thrown into this group. We named ourselves Misfit Motorsports, and in 2 weeks, we trained and put ourselves together in a team to try to compete with the big guys. And we got hit with like a couple of BS penalties, or it was the first time they'd ever run it. So nobody racing kind of knew what they were doing, especially not us. And no one running the show knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
So we fell behind fast on penalties that ended up being BS. Like we got hit. We had advanced 3 positions and got hit with a drive-through penalty because they thought our helmet wasn't strapped, and the helmet was strapped, but they didn't give us our laps back.
Right.
And it was just like stuff like that. So basically by the end of the race, I was going out and like doing interviews because I was one of the captains of the team. And I was doing really just sassy interviews about this one team that was driving really aggressively. And I pulled off a move late in the race, totally by accident, that cost them the win. And so basically, like at the end of the day, I'm like,
You're an
if
American
I'm not going to
patriot.
finish first or second or even
Fuck you.
third,
You ain't gonna finish first.
they're
either.
going to know who I am. So the
Right.
only two teams that people really remember, right, were the winners and us, and maybe the team that we kept from the win because they were kind of driving rough. And it's like, these aren't people like the other team. Like I was getting real mad. I mean, they almost put one of my drivers in the hospital, and that brought out like the
What?
that brought out like my inner hockey mom, right? Like I was
Yeah.
so pissed. I was ready to fight. And he was one of our better drivers, and he just got absolutely just
Demolished.
stuck into the wall.
Yeah.
Race fights are always pretty good.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the beauty of racing, right? Is like you've just spent 4 hours in a car that's at a minimum 120 degrees, driving close to 200 miles an hour, and like wheel to wheel with other people doing the same thing, and people have wronged you, and you've wronged people, and you crawl out of the car, and you have just enough time to put your sponsor's ball cap on before they shove a microphone in your face.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's perfect. You know.
So let's get. So I kind of get an idea of your racing background and what you do.
yeah,
Let's get into your comedy now.
yeah.
So what I've heard from comedians when they shit on themselves and other people is that you have to be somewhat demented to want to be on the stage and do comedy. Do you believe in that, or do you think there's something deeper to that?
I mean, how deep into this do we want to get?
Go as deep as you want, buddy.
Well, how long have you been doing it?
I've been doing it like seriously for 3 years.
Okay.
So,
And you're enjoying it.
oh yeah, like I love it. Like it's I used to be in bands and stuff. I mean, it's the most fun thing I've ever done. I gave up the opportunity at an internship with IBM to do comedy.
Nice.
I dropped out of college a 3rd time to pursue stand-up comedy. So I mean, like, not a lot of people can say they dropped out of college 3 times.
Ray went through college and became
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I can tell you, like, I feel bad saying this because it's nothing my parents did or nothing my family did. I had a rough childhood, and it had nothing to do with
comedy at all.
it had nothing to do with my family. My family was
Okay.
pretty great, you
Right.
know. My parents were great. I was sexually abused when I was like 14 years old.
Okay.
Oh no shit.
And that really changes your that's at a time period of your life that's already very um it's already very difficult and transitional.
Right.
And I was also getting bullied a lot, which actually led me right into the arms of my abuser. It was my vice principal at my school.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like our family was going through some like troubles, like financially and stuff. And it was difficult. It was really rough. And it kind of flipped a switch in me. And I went from being like this really good kid that always did whatever he was told
Right.
to being, 180 degrees of that. And of course, my parents wrote it off, having raised 4 kids before me, as oh, he's just being a teenager, he's just
Going through a
rebelling.
phase.
Yeah, he's
Did
just
you
going
talk
through
to
a
your
phase.
parents about that incident?
I didn't talk to anybody about it until it was 14 years before I talked to anybody
shit,
about
okay.
it. It poisoned a lot of relationships. It almost cost me my relationship with like my now wife.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really has not talking about it really has an impact on people. I really don't bring it up a lot. But when people ask like, oh, like are comedians dealing with trauma? Like in my experience, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I don't think you have to have gone through traumatic experiences, but I had that. I had a heart surgery when I was 22 years old.
Oh shit, dude. Okay. That must have
And
been
it's just
something wrong
like,
with your heart then, like actually something, not just from,
yeah, like it was like a wiring issue basically, right? Like it
Okay.
wasn't open heart surgery or anything like that, but it was still heart surgery. So you have stuff like that happen and it kind of tempers your expectations. And really, if you're a certain kind of person, I guess, humor becomes like how you cope with that.
Right. It's your escape.
Yeah. So the first time I really tried comedy was like within a year of me having a heart surgery. And like, I talked about it a little bit on stage and stuff. It was super hacky. I have a video of me doing stand up from around that time, and I haven't been able to make it more than 14 seconds in. Like I grew up on the internet, right? Like I was born in 88. So like you guys,
okay.
I grew up on the internet. Like I've watched journalists get beheaded on Live Leak and shit. I cannot watch more than 15 seconds of my 10-year-old stand up.
That cringe.
Yeah, it's so like I can't do it. Like it's just it's not even what I'm saying. It's just like my body language and how I'm carrying myself. Like once I started dealing with my trauma, it made me just a better person overall, but it changed how I carry myself, how I
Have you made jokes about your incident with the vice principal on stage?
like,
okay, so you're actually you
Yeah.
embrace it now and you're kind of doing your thing
if
with
I'm
it.
doing like a feature set,
Yeah.
it's I worked with do you guys know who Kate Quigley is?
I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so
She's still around?
Yeah, Kate Quigley's great. Kate Quigley was one of the first. I think Kate Quigley was actually the first one I featured for, and it was one of her first shows back after she had
incident?
gone through her incident, right?
OD.
What was
The
her
OD
incident?
situation. So
So-
basically,
Oh, good,
Kate
okay.
Quigley was Kate Quigley OD'd with a bunch of like they got a bad batch of cocaine,
Yeah.
and Kate Quigley and all of her friends OD'd, and she woke up in the hospital. And long story short, all of her friends are dead.
Yeah, it was like
So
3 people died and she
Holy
almost
shit.
died.
Yeah,
Like
and I think
Sid
of her
Vicious type
circle,
shit.
she was the
Sid
sole
Vicious.
survivor, and it was like all comics and friends of hers. It was
Yeah.
terrible. So I think it was one of her first shows back, and it was something that she said, and her not knowing my history and not caring, because who cares? But she said something that really stuck with me, and the crowd ate me alive, right? Because they were just there to see her. Like they were drunk, horny truckers. And anybody that wasn't a cute
female
blonde with big boobs was just I was perceived as being like a wall between them and Kate, right?
Right,
So
you're cock
they
blocking
hated,
them.
yeah, they hated me. So I got off stage, and Kate went up, and Kate didn't talk about it at all. And I talked to her in the bar later, and Kate just basically said like she wanted to talk about it, but she's like that crowd didn't deserve it.
Okay.
And so like there's time I do about like I do my best to make like my abuse funny, right? Because like I'm not gonna sit in front of people that paid to see comedy and like tell them, oh boo hoo, I got molested, whatever. Who gives a shit?
It happens all the fucking time.
It happens all the fucking time, like record numbers. Like if you think the Catholic Church is bad, do not look up public school numbers. You'll start homeschooling your kid immediately. But I do what I think is a really funny bit about it, and I get really good feedback on it. And but there are certain crowds where I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna put something else in that little like 5 minutes slot instead of doing that because I don't want to. I don't know. It's weird. It's not that I'm uncomfortable talking about it. It's that like there's a right and a wrong crowd for that kind of stuff.
Right. You got to feel out the crowd too. So let's get back in your comedy though here. So what is the most, I would say most aggressive, I would say, what are they called? Hecklers that you had to deal with, and how did you deal with that?
I'm not proud of how I dealt with it, but this has actually happened about a month ago. I had a heckler step on one of my punchlines.
Ooh, shit. Okay.
Like he said what my punchline was before I said it. And I just basically called back to an earlier part of my set. And I just said something effective like, don't you have like a fucking lever to pull or a button to press at a factory somewhere? And like, it was super shitty and disrespectful.
Damn,
and like, it was
he probably does
funny, but like, yeah, it was just, it really rubbed me the wrong way. Cause it's like, why are you here? Like, why did you pay money to be here?
If you want to talk shit
to do that. And I get it. And it's like, the sad thing is like, I attack that guy, but I get it. Like you're caught up in the energy of it and you want to be a part of the show.
Right.
But it is what it is. I think that the only other one, I caught it on video and I haven't uploaded it anywhere yet because like the comedian destroys heckler shit is so fucking hack. And I know 90% of the time those hecklers are planted.
Yeah, like Andrew Schultz does that all the time, right?
I haven't seen any clips of Andrew Schultz.
I've seen a bunch of those of him. I don't know if it's like the crowd work thing that he does.
Yeah,
it looks kind of.
There's guys that are great at crowd work, and I do okay crowd work, but it's just like I'm not. I don't know if I'm just not enough of a bully to be great at crowd work.
No, but you're a sweetheart. You're a good guy. Yeah, I can tell you're a good man.
I got a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Ask your question, but first I gotta break the seal. So Dr.
Go for it. Yeah. So Cam, why do you think so many great comedians have come out of the Cleveland area? You got Ray, you got Chad. I know there's a whole bunch more. Like, do you think it's because like you got those? It's kind of centrally located in the U.S. around a bunch of other comedy clubs, more opportunity maybe than other cities.
Yes, I got a couple theories on that. And one of them is kind of surface level, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that because like a lot of radio and television personalities come out of Cleveland because it's like a small to medium sized market. But the big thing is that we don't really have much of an accent.
Right.
We're about as close to a default American accent as there is.
Yeah. No, I've heard
that makes a difference for guys, especially guys that want to do radio, podcasting, whatever. But I think on the other side of it is that we're just. Everybody that's come out of Cleveland is of an age that we can distinctly remember when we had manufacturing and we had business and we had shit to look forward to. And all of that slowly got taken away. And now we just live in this post-industrial wasteland and the weather is super depressing. And it's
just a way to cope, I guess, right?
And I think it is a coping mechanism for sure.
Got to get your laughs somewhere, you know?
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that's got something to do with it. Like, I don't think we're necessarily funnier than anybody else. I think it's just a coping mechanism for a lot of stuff.
Well, and you mentioned earlier about like the self-deprecation, like Midwest type thing. So maybe you just I've noticed that too. Like Cleveland, there's a lot of comedians that come out of there, and then like Canada, like there's a lot of them.
Yeah,
Canada. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was talking to somebody. It's weird how like atomized America is, like how different we are culturally from place to place, and how like I have more in common with somebody from like the Maritimes than I do with somebody from Los Angeles.
Right.
Even though, yeah. So, but yeah, there are a lot of great comics and a lot of great sketch comedy comes out of Canada. Like I'm in a weird spot where I hate improv. I can't stand improv.
Why can't you take improv?
Love sketch comedy.
Why don't you like improv?
Improv is like a lot of like, improv seems to be like every time you complain about improv not being funny, people that like defend improv will like create these like
Elucid, you know,
like very specific situations in which like improv is funny, and like in stand up, like
whose line is it
a joke
anyway?
either lines or or either lands or it doesn't. Yeah, kind of. I don't know whose line is anyway. I thought was funny.
That's improv.
Here's the thing:
right?
is like
It's
bad
magical.
improv is like good improv is great.
Yeah.
right.
And you got to be
But-
there, like, because if you like give them a suggestion or something, and you're
Yeah.
interacting, you see what they can pull off. If you're watching it afterwards, like a recording of it, you might be like, "Ah, that's kind of funny." But if you're there and you're like seeing it live,
You're
it's
like, damn, that's
it's
witty as
different,
fuck.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
there-
I mean,
and really
a
good
lot of
stuff is
great-
really good.
Yeah, a lot of great improv comes from the upper Midwest and from Canada. So
Yeah, Second City in Chicago. They used to be in Toronto. So the improv's like a theater scene.
yes, I can't diss improv any better than Mad TV did back when Whose Line Is It Anyway was on. Because Frank Caliendo was impersonating Drew Carey, and he said, "In improv, anything can happen, and maybe one day it will." Or it was something to that
Oh,
effect, and I was
shit.
like, "That's my whole problem." It's like, because bad, you know, good stand up is people trying for jokes and landing, and bad stand up is like people trying for jokes and not landing. Bad improv is like theater kids just yelling and waving their arms around and hoping
Look
that
at me,
being
look at
zany and
me.
wacky will be a replacement for jokes.
Yeah, I hate theater kids. They're fucking bitches. But anyway,
Yeah,
Dr.
they're
Chow.
a strange breed.
Dr. Chow, I got a question
Yeah.
for you real quick. Were you ever a theater kid?
No, not really. I've done some, you know. I've done some of the improv stuff back when in my early 20s. And
Oh,
I've been in
shit.
I've been in a play or two
Whoa, wait a minute.
in Chicago. I was
Oh,
trying, you know, and I've been in a movie too. So I did a little acting.
Whoa!
I studied a little acting back in the day. So
So,
Gotcha.
Dr. Chow, what made you stop doing theater?
It was gay.
yeah, it was. Well, dude, I started doing it when I was like single, and I was like trying to get hoes and stuff, you know, because it's
I
really good
mean-
for that, honestly.
It is
True.
good for pussy. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that right now.
But
Peter
then
Pussy
I got a
really
chick,
good.
so and then I had a kid, and that all happened real quick, and I just said fuck it, it's not worth it. Plus, it's like it was very political, like in the amongst like, oh, like who gets to move up and who gets to do all this shit. It's very competitive and very cliquey, and I just wasn't into it that
Not
much.
in anything. Yep.
But dude, I was actually pretty, you know, I was well
Versed in the-
received. Well, people liked me, so
Yeah, you were
yeah,
good.
I was
Yeah.
pretty good at it.
Mm.
But yeah, fuck it. I would never do it again, you know. But if
Yeah.
you're young, I always tell people, like, I tell people who can't find chicks who are like 20 to 25 or whatever, I'm like, dude, just go do
Take an
some
acting
fucking
class.
acting class, bro. Meisner technique, whatever.
That's pretty
you'll find
smart,
chicks.
man. That's higher level thinking.
It
It
is.
always makes me really cringe when people are like, "Oh yeah, buy like a hot car or like a fast motorcycle."
Yeah,
I'm like,
chicks
you'll get
don't give a
that way. Like, you know who's attracted to fast motorcycles and hot cars? Other dudes.
Yep.
exactly.
Like, you'll
yeah.
meet the guy who will be the best man at your wedding when you eventually meet a girl, but you will not meet the girl.
No, exactly. You know, that's the best is like go to where all the chicks hang out and get involved in something kind of weak or like that shit. And
So-
you'll find
so-
some chicks.
So Cam, I'm guessing you're Dutch, right? You're
Yeah.
from the Netherlands, bud?
Like Dutch and English by heritage. Yeah,
By heritage.
I don't
Okay.
like to.
You don't like to
bring up
mix
the
and
English
ming.
part of it.
Yeah, of course. Fuck the Saxons. But anyway,
Well, it's just like it's what
They
the
conquer-
English are now.
right. I got you.
I had to work with in writing. I was I guess freelance automotive journalist, and I had to work with some English men, and they're just like, I have 4 older sisters, and they're just that catty, passive aggressive, like every negative stereotype
Yeah.
of a woman
Dude, I know, man. Like,
with male pattern baldness, and it's just
Oh my-
like they're
and with bad teeth.
and I'm super like I don't think it's possible to be like racist against your own kind, I guess. I don't know. But
It
like
definitely
with my
is.
English heritage,
I
right?
hate
Like
white
I have like
people. But go ahead.
particular types of English. Like the further south you are in England, the more I dislike you, and the further north you are, the more likely I am to be like, no, let's hear what he has to say.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's I think it's the accent, like the London Southern English accent is just very, very comes across as very, very
I forgot what it's
pretentious.
called. It's called like Cockney.
Like
Cockney
Cockney is
it's
like
the
its own thing, but yeah, like if I talk to like a Brummie or like a Mank or whatever, I'm like,
yeah. So
I'm like, okay, this is like this is like a working class guy that's not putting on
he's a
airs, and I
blue
feel
collar
shitty for thinking
man.
that because it's like they can't help. They're like, I can't help my accent any more than they can help their accent. But like somebody from London starts talking about like, well, this is how I think you should do it in America. Like, shut up.
Right. So
But like a Brummie's like, well, we don't have issues with this, and I think this is why. I'm like, well, let's hear what he has to say.
you're like, you know what? Hang on a second. He might actually have something here.
Mm.
What are you chugging there, vodka, man? Damn.
No, it was one of those margaritas in a can, super white trash.
Oh, you're from the Midwest, so we'll let it
I am.
pass.
I was at a bar a few days ago with my wife, and we had a few margaritas there. We wanted more margaritas, so we did the very classy thing, and we stopped at a Circle K and drank.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Oh shit! All right, well, I want to get into you a little bit about bars.
yeah.
So the bar vibe in Ohio. I would say, is there a lot of like comedy going on in the bars? At all
Yeah,
over
lots
there?
of bar shows. I don't love bar shows.
You don't do bar
Um,
shows at all, or
I do some. I don't do a lot of bar shows.
why's that?
Northeast Ohio has this belief that it's a sports town.
Yeah, you're the Browns. You guys are good. Deshaun Watson. You know,
We actually do have a pretty good Browns team this year, actually.
the Lions are gonna win, but yeah.
I would also agree with that.
Oh wait, my bad. Fuck, I fucked up. You guys were the Steelers. Do this. Yeah, go ahead though. Steelers. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Here's what frustrates me about Northeast Ohio is that there was a time in the late 70s, early 80s where the predominant music scenes in America, the big music cities, were New York, LA,
Nashville,
and like Cleveland and Akron.
Oh, okay. So no Nashville.
And I say Cleveland and Akron because they're 45 minutes apart.
Right.
So you had those, and then you had we have like the greatest orchestra in the world. We have some really incredible museums. We have a lot of comedy, comes from Cleveland and stuff. And everybody wants to pretend we're a sports town when we had a mediocre at best football team.
Basketball though, LeBron James,
That's
Cavaliers,
that's my
championship.
problem with it. Like we have a great basketball team, we have a pretty damn good baseball team, and everybody acts like we're a football town, and we've got the Browns. And it's like I'm a Browns fan, like it's whatever. But
Well, you
like,
weren't alive during Jim Brown era.
no.
Jim Brown tore up, bro.
Well, and then you guys got the college football stronghold with Ohio State.
I fucking can't stand
The high
college
school
football
stuff is
fans.
popular there, and then
Buckeyes,
the Hall
baby.
of Fame is in Ohio too. So
Yep.
that's why
Yeah.
everyone thinks like Ohio's like, and there's a lot of good players from Ohio.
Yep.
There are. I don't know. Like it's just I can't
Fathom it.
No, it's like I'm like in the spring, summer, and fall, I watch racing and occasionally baseball.
Yeah.
My winter sport of choice is hockey. Like I'll love watching football with my friends. Like on Thanksgiving, my wife's aunt, so I guess by extension, my aunt is a big Cowboys fan, and no one else will watch the Cowboys game with her. So it's like one day out of the year, I'm a Cowboys fan.
Oh shit, Jesus.
But yeah,
Christ.
like so my problem with the bars is just it is all the times of year when you don't want to be outside.
Yeah.
The bar is filled with just the most obnoxious college sports fans imaginable.
Or Browns fans or whatnot.
Yo,
Browns
boys.
fans aren't bad. It's the fucking Ohio State fans. It's just
There's college kids trying to get rowdy, man.
Yo, I gotta bounce for 1 second.
It's the 45-year-old
college kids.
Yeah, it's the 45-year-old guys that like never went to college.
Yeah, you can't blame them though, man. They got to hold on to something.
I guess, man. Shit.
Yeah.
It's tough.
So I want to get back into your racing though. So right now, what is your what is the kind of cars you race? What is the
So right now I just do
division you
like
race
sports
in?
cars. I'm going out to drive a Toyota Celica out in Seattle.
So are you I'm trying to like, because I got a buddy who's a pit stopper for like IndyCar racing and whatnot. He
Yeah, do
works
you know
for,
which team he's with?
I've never asked him. He just
Okay.
shows me pictures and shit all the time. I never
Can I
really
ask,
got
like,
into it
I
with
got
him.
a I got a buddy who works for Penske in Mooresville, North Carolina, and when I go down to Mooresville, I stay with him
Right.
because yeah. So I was curious what team he worked for.
No, he makes a fuck ton of money though, dude. Those
Oh,
pit
dude, yeah.
teams make a ton of money.
All of those pit crew guys are like ex track guys,
Yep.
all ex football guys. So it's pretty cool, man.
So you race like high performance, or I would just say, is it kind of like brand new cars, or is it just more?
No, yeah. So the race I'm doing this weekend is actually called a Lemons race. So
Mhm.
it's a play on words of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So it's basically your budget for the car itself is $500. That's the
Okay.
most you can spend. So the car is going to be pretty shitty. But you can spend as much money as you want, obviously, on safety equipment.
Right,
That's
right.
not safety equipment and tires aren't counted in. And what I like about it is that it's a lot of inexpensive track time. And because there are a lot of really slow, crummy cars in there, you get a lot of experience passing and you get a lot of experience being passed. And that teaches you a lot about racecraft, as far as it's one thing to go out and run hot laps on an ideal racing line when you're by yourself.
Right.
Another thing entirely to be in a pack and to try to plan. There's good places to pass and bad places to pass.
Right.
And there's places where you can give up a position to a faster car that's racing because there's multiple classes racing at once. There's places where you can give up a position and lose a minimum of time.
Okay.
And yeah.
Are these
So
tracks you guys are racing on? Are they like with a good amount of apexes also? Or are you guys racing on just like a circular track?
Yeah, no, it's so the track we're going to is Ridge Motorsports Park, which was built. Ridge is relatively new, so it was built within the last 10 or 20 years, and it's basically a playground for like all of the Microsoft, Apple, Google, and Nintendo people from Seattle. It's like 2 hours south of Seattle.
Okay.
And it's basically like if you took a lot of your favorite corners from different tracks and put them together.
Okay.
It's a really interesting track. Like on paper, it sounds like
It's
it kind
pretty
of
friendly to
cynical,
drivers.
like kind of yeah. It's like if you tried to make the ultimate dive bar out of like combining parts of like CBGBs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like it would be like really cynical and shitty and dumb, but like the Ridge just got the recipe right. And then a couple months ago, I did a race at High Plains Raceway in Colorado.
Okay.
Which is cool because it was a track that had closed for quite a few years and was reopened, and the surface was super old and washed out, and it rained all weekend and kind of stuff. Oh, hey, Jeremy's here. Hi, Jeremy. Sorry, Jeremy.
No, you're good, man.
Watching. But yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I love it. It's an endurance race. It's 14 hours, so 7 hours on Saturday and Sunday.
Jesus Christ,
and
dude.
so obviously you split driving duties with someone else.
With your co-driver. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm really excited about it. Next year, I'm going to try to move up, and I want to run a couple Spec Miata races, and hopefully try to do both of the ARCA road course races, which ARCA is like almost NASCAR. It's like a step below the truck series.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically trying to secure sponsorship for that.
Have you ever tried racing out of the country, like in Europe or South America at all, or no?
This is like a super shitty thing to say, but it's like all of my favorite tracks are in North America. So I've never really thought about racing overseas. There's only a couple tracks overseas that interest me at all. I just
not about it.
I don't really care about racing overseas. Yeah. Sorry. Like if you're an international race fan, like it's your birthright if you think your local track is the best track in the world.
Have you ever have you ever thought of, I guess because not rally racing, but like my favorite sport for racing is rally racing. That's just insane.
The track that I'm going to this weekend in the woods. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful out there because it's in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific Northwest. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Right.
And they've got a rally track through the woods.
Oh shit! Yep.
And I'm gonna be the navigator for a friend of mine.
Oh shit! You're the navigator.
Rally in February. Yeah. So yeah, might not make it to March.
I'll pray for you, buddy.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah, it's the thing I'm the
go
most
ahead.
nervous about because I'm not driving.
Right. Your
Like
passenger.
yeah, it's a guy I've known for like 20 years, right? Like I trust him implicitly, but it's like my friends make fun of me because I don't like roller coasters
Yeah.
because I'm not. I think it's because I'm not driving, and it's not because like I'm a control freak. It's because if something goes wrong, I'm directly responsible for what goes wrong
Hey,
and
so
how I
don't
try to
fuck
recover
up. You
from
better
it.
not
Whereas
fuck
on a
up,
roller
dude.
coaster, I'm just along for the ride. So
Well-
yeah, I'm a little nervous to navigate. I've been.
I think rally racing might be on par with Formula One. I mean, Formula One,
Yeah.
insane, reaction times, but just rally racing,
like,
dude,
I don't-
with the conditions and whatnot, but depending on the track you're on, in the corners and all that shit. I just think rally racing is its own pedigree.
Yeah,
That's just
I don't.
insane.
So I think Formula One is an incredibly good marketing department
Right.
wrapped around a very mediocre racing series. I think people that don't know a lot about racing but have watched a couple Netflix shows. It's kind of like every time there's something you're really into, or like a historical event you're really into, and then they make a Netflix documentary about it, and then you have to talk to people who think they're an expert because they watched a half-hour Netflix documentary.
All right.
And it's a very specific experience, but it's like, it's whatever. Like the Chernobyl thing, right? Like I was really into, like, I wanted to go to Pripyat when I was like 20,
Right.
Yeah.
and walk around, and then all of these people saw this like Chernobyl drama, and they're like, well, this is how it went. I'm like, not exactly. It was like a TV show, but anyhow, they have this whole Formula One's done a great job of marketing themselves with this TV show. It's like Real Housewives of the Nürburgring or whatever it's called. And I think certain F1 drivers are some of the best drivers in the world, but you can say that about any racing series. If you look at any top tier racing series, IndyCar, Formula One, NASCAR, Aussie V8 supercars,
Right.
Any racing series in the world, you can take the top 5 or 6 guys from that series and say those are some of the best drivers in the world. But I don't think you can make the blanket statement that all F1 drivers are by themselves the best drivers.
The best
in the
drivers
world.
are. I mean,
Yeah,
it just
but
depends.
they've marketed
there's too many
themselves that way.
nuances. Well, yeah, of course they got the money behind them. They got the sponsors behind them.
Yeah.
I mean, they make the most bread. So
It's really what it is. Like the Andretti's want to start a team in Formula One, and they're basically not going to let them because
plus,
they want American money in terms of ticket sales, but they don't want American money as far as an actual team.
I think
and
Formula
drivers.
One's fixed at this point anyway. Though there's just so much money involved.
Yeah,
in it.
it's just, I don't know. I can't watch it. It's not entertaining to me. It's like, it's whatever if you watch it. But most people I know who watch Formula One think it's great because it's the only racing series they watch. And like, there's services called like Flow Racing and Dirt Vision where they'll show like local short track and local dirt track racing on Friday and Saturday nights. Like if it's 4 a.m. Eastern time, you can tune in and watch an 1/8 mile short track race in Alaska somewhere. It's awesome.
All right.
And like, I've seen more entertaining racing at some local short track in the middle of bumfuck nowhere than any Formula One race.
Like in
after,
down in Austin or yeah.
Yeah, but like pre-2005, Formula One in the 90s when I was a kid was amazing. I mean, it was fantastic. It was a really, really, really entertaining series to watch, and I feel like it's not so much anymore.
Yeah,
but I think NASCAR was much more interesting in the 90s. I think like sports car racing was great in the 90s. Like everything was, I don't know.
Do you know what V8 supercars are?
Yeah, I was just mentioning that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a race in Gold Coast, Australia when I was living out there.
Wow.
In Queensland, and yeah, that was crazy because they're driving on the streets and there's casinos and like high rises everywhere, and it was just a crazy party. I wasn't even a race fan, but I was just there when it was happening, and it was awesome. So loud, and cars are like feet from you with barriers in between you.
I think there's certain races that you can pick from any racing series that like sitting down and watching that with somebody will make anybody a race fan. And I think any V8 supercars race falls in that category. Did Shane Van Gisbergen win that race?
It was in 06, I think. I don't know who won it.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think. I think he races for Penske's IndyCar team now. There's a lot of V8 supercars guys that have come to North America to tear shit up, and I love it. Those are some of the best. Those guys are some of the best drivers in the world because they're not taking. I mean, they're taking specialized race cars, but they're not taking these like open rule book, open wheel cars.
Yeah. So how are those cars different than the stock cars? Are they the same?
Aussie V8 supercars and stock cars are far more similar, like NASCAR style stock cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Aussie V8 supercars are a lot more similar than I would say than like Indy cars and Formula One cars are.
Right, because I remember that it kind of looked like a NASCAR style car, you know.
Yeah, so yeah, I love it. I love how many road course races are on the NASCAR schedule now. I think it's really great. Like this last weekend's race at Charlotte, the Charlotte Roval, was really, really cool. The highlights would probably be pretty good to watch. I don't know if the highlights actually would be good to watch for that one. Now that I'm saying that, I think that was more of a slow burner. But
okay,
can I switch gears?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I just see something in the chat that's like blowing my mind. Because this groomer Ray leave Elise alone guy, he's been dropping some news stories, but he references Rudolph Steiner here. This is a guy who I know about. He's a polymath from the late 1890s to early 1900s. He's written thousands of books, and like he's basically the godfather of this thing called anthroposophia, and he started all the Waldorf schools and the Steiner schools. I thought this was very interesting because this guy's like, dude, he's like he knows so much shit, bro, if you read his stuff. And when I saw this, I was like, holy shit, bro. I wonder what this is all about. So props, man. Keep dropping stuff. He also gave us some news on
in Los Angeles or
yeah. Some guy tried to blow up the Ferris wheel. I looked it up. He's not kidding. So
holy
we kind of got a groomer Ray. You are now our in chat
correspondent for news
on the scene reporter of what's going on. So thanks, groomer Ray. Damn. Sorry, I know that kind of derailed the car talk, but that just blew my mind.
No, that's totally fine. Actually, Groomer Ray just made a comment. I just checked in with chat, and he mentioned Steiner had 99% accuracy. I have seen that before, too. Because what year was, like, the first vaccine? Like, what year was the penicillin vaccine? Sorry for my typing noises.
The guy who invented the first vaccine, penicillin isn't a vaccine.
Yeah, I don't know why I just said that.
The first vaccine was invented by a guy named Sir Edward Jenner, and he was part of the Royal British Society, I think in the 1800s. And
cowpox vaccine, right?
It was the cowpox. Yeah, he took pustulates from a cow and injected them into people or whatever, and it somehow was the first time they did it. And the crazy thing about it is that Edward Jenner is actually related by blood to the Kylie Jenner and Bruce Jenner. So they have a lineage tying to the OG guy. And you can look him up. He's got tons of stuff. Edward Jenner.
The reason I wanted to mention that is that when Steiner was making this like prediction about this is going to be a vaccine that severs our spiritual connection with, a higher power or whatever. Like, it wasn't like a vaccine was a new thing that he was just being scared of. It wasn't like, oh my God, 5G, whatever. Like, vaccines had been around for over a century when he made that statement. So it's not like he was being reactionary about vaccines.
Yeah, no. I mean, I didn't know that part about him, but I've seen some of his stuff, read some of his stuff, and I know enough about him. And like, he was really he knew all this stuff about like bees. He's like written preeminent books about all these different things. He was a polymath. Like, he was an expert in everything he did, It just like came to him as a kid. And he was very like tortured in his mind too, but he also did all this crazy stuff. So I just found it interesting. And I usually wouldn't just derail the talk like that, but when I saw it, I was like,
that
holy
makes me
shit.
feel like a piece of shit. Steiner had a terrible childhood, and like he tried to save all of us, and I had a terrible childhood, and I tell dick jokes and drive mediocre race cars.
No,
or drive good race cars in a mediocre way.
That's funny. Oh, so you are aware of who he is, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've read about him before.
Yeah. No.
A lot of fucking downtime lately, especially.
But hey, let's jump back to comedy for a sec. Who are some of your favorite guys that have come through?
Come from Cleveland, or just
chicks
come through
that
like
come
in
through the
general?
club and that you're like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
I really like this guy as a person or as a comic or both?
Yeah, one of the guys, he's like one of my best friends, and you can tell because we butt heads and argue fucking constantly. But John Brown is hilarious, and it's an impossible name to fucking Google or anything. I think he does a joke about how tough it would be to Google his name, but
Right.
John Brown out of Akron, Ohio is great. Bob McClure is one of my best friends. He's hilarious. He's been on tour with like Sean Lynch. Carter Doherty's in Chicago now. Bilal Swain's in Austin now. So
What's as a like a a newer guy, into the comedy scene, what's the vibe amongst your peers about this whole Austin thing that's come out of nowhere basically and has become like they claim it's the mecca of comedy or whatever?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because when I started, that was right when the switch started happening, because it used to be if you wanted to be somebody in comedy, you went to Chicago or you went to New York. And I think New York is like nothing's going to topple New York or Los Angeles, but that third spot used to be Chicago. And I saw that switch almost overnight to Austin. And I've had a couple friends that have gone to Austin to make
Joe Rogan and Tony Hinchcliffe have been killing it over there recently.
Yeah. I'm on a Discord channel for a bunch of people that are in the racing industry. That some of them are drivers, some of them do paint schemes, some of them do social media, some of them like manage tracks and stuff. But they're all people about my age, and actually, we've gotten together quite a few times to watch Kill Tony.
Oh shit! So you're a Kill Tony fan?
Yeah, so I'm a Kill Tony fan. But what's amazing, I actually discovered one of my favorite up and coming comics through Kill Tony. Her name's Shelby Morgan.
Yeah,
with a C. She's hilarious.
I really like I used to not like him, but the Big Red Machine on there.
Yeah,
he's become good, man. Montgomery. Like I used to not get it, or I thought he was kind of like sloppy, and I think he got sober, and now I'm just like, it's so unique. I'm like, it's pretty funny, dude.
Who was that Iron Man guy that always was on Kill Tony back in the day, the early days? I forgot that dude's name.
That was probably before his time.
Was that?
Did you still watch it right at the beginning?
Because I didn't watch it right at the beginning. Yeah.
Earl, we talked about that with Earl. Remember?
Like, dude, I was so fucked up. I don't remember that
shit. Yeah, Earl told us about it. Basically, it was because you know how they got all those like guys who dress up in Santa Monica Boulevard, and they charge like $10 for a pic or $5 for a picture.
It's like the same thing with Times Square, right?
Yeah.
Like just the
guys.
dirtiest, nastiest Elmo costume you've ever seen.
And you take a hug him and take a picture.
No,
hey man, take my mixtape. I'll sign it for you. Oh no, that's $10.
Oh yeah, that's scam.
Yeah.
No, they had a guy who had a full, like, authentic looking Iron Man suit with the robot voice and everything. And he used to stand on their show, and I guess he was just completely out of his mind. He's like in love with Tony Hinchcliffe, and they had to get rid of him. Yeah, it's a good little
that kind of
reminds me.
We were talking about things that got me into comedy. So around the same time we got Comedy Central, I started listening to Opie and Anthony on the radio in Cleveland in the car, because they used to be syndicated in Cleveland. So they'd play their morning show in the afternoons in Cleveland. So after school, I would listen to Opie and Anthony. So like that, I would say between getting Comedy Central and Opie and Anthony, that was probably the biggest influences on comedy and making me want to get into comedy. And again, like I had just gone through some really traumatic shit in my life, and like Opie and Anthony come on and they're like, no, you can just be absolutely just brutal in how much you dislike everything.
Right.
Because they would just lay into everything. They'd make fun of everything.
Kind of just like open a door for you. Then you're like, holy shit, I don't need to be complacent. I don't need to just take shit. I can actually just say no. Fuck you.
Yeah, because my youngest sister that was still living at home was like very like goody two shoes, I guess. And I was definitely too. And she would be like, anytime I would like make fun of anything. Like I remember the first time I heard Hanson, the band Hanson, on the radio, it's like, these guys sound like girls. And she's like, that's mean. They're 9. And I'm like, why should I care? But like, I was like, oh, okay, I can't make fun of that. And then like you hear people making fun of everything. And I'm like, oh, this is just, I don't know.
Liberating, you know?
Yeah, it's just, it's cathartic
crazy
to make fun, to hear other people make fun of stuff that you find stupid.
Yeah, no, I mean I never actually really listened to their show, but I in retrospect, I'd seen some of like the famous clips, and then
Yeah.
I would watch Kumia, and
They made fun of
I'd seen Jim
Bobo.
Norton and stuff. But yeah, no, it was a crazy, groundbreaking type show.
There's individual like clips and lines from that show that like kind of live rent free in my head, you know. So I really appreciate it. I mean, I remember when I was working at a car dealership, and I remember listening to Opie and Anthony on XM just all the time. If I got in a car, like you'd know if I was the last person who drove a car because it'd be tuned on like the Opie and Anthony channel. And it's funny because I remember the day Anthony got fired, and I had quit that job within a week. Because like there was no show to listen to anymore, so I was like, I don't need this job anymore, and I switched jobs and started working at an auto parts store. But like I didn't realize how much of that job, like how much of the bullshit on that job I put up with just because I had free Sirius XM. Like I could have just gotten a better job.
Yeah,
and
no, that's
bought
the
my
thing.
own satellite radio, whatever.
That's the thing with some jobs. Like if I was like working at this one place like as a contractor, and like they had like all like you couldn't stream podcasts or stuff like while you were working on the computer. They had blockers up, and I was like, dude, I got to get out of here, because most places there's like they have blockers, but there's I don't know. Basically, the environment of where you're working, sometimes it's like it builds the experience or makes the time go faster. Where you're like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I got a question for you, man. So you have your lovely wife with you. You're doing comedy. You're doing racing. Can you talk to me about like how what was your guys' first experience together? Let's dive into your personal life a little bit.
My wife and I, like,
yeah. How'd you meet her? How'd you
met
pull
her,
that?
I met her on a dating site.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's modern. Yeah.
So we both put that we lived in Cleveland, which was for both of us about 40 minutes to an hour east of us.
Okay.
And then we found out that we lived about 15 minutes apart.
Okay. Yeah.
So we just met someplace close to both of our houses and just drove around for hours just talking.
No shit. Okay.
Yeah. And then she got out of the car, and the dome light of the car lit up, and I caught her eyes, and she just had the prettiest green eyes I'd ever seen.
Holy shit.
I couldn't keep a poker face, right? Because I was like, it was my slutty summer, right? So I was just and then like super corny.
How old were you at this? How old were you at this point?
I was 22, 23.
Oh shit,
23.
you're young as fuck.
I was 23, right. Yeah. I was 23 when this happened. So it's super corny, but yeah, I saw her eyes, and I was done. Like it was
I assume you were driving, right?
I was driving, yeah.
And what whip did you have?
It was a lime green Mazda 2.
Nice, man. I like the little.
I bought it brand new. Yeah, I just I guess it's still technically mine because it's not sold yet, but it's living with a buddy of mine over by Mid Ohio racetrack. So just ran out of space for it.
You guys got married. How did you pull the question? What was your whole time marriage? Like,
oh man, this is so great. So
how'd you do it?
My wife's favorite car is a one-of-a-kind Honda concept car from the 70s.
Yeah.
That this Italian coach builder basically took a brand new Honda Civic, cut the body off, and built this beautiful new, very angular, very 70s Italian body for the Geneva Auto Show in 75 or 76. There's one of them in the world, and it just so happens that one of my closest friends that lives like 10 minutes away has that car. Okay. So my wife, every time I'd go visit him, just fell in love with his car. And she had this pumpkin patch. This is a stupid story, but whatever. It's this pumpkin patch, orchard, apple orchard, whatever, like 30 minutes away. And I had basically worked this whole thing where I was like, oh, honey, like, hey, I get to borrow. It was called the Honda Lady was the name of the concept car. I get to borrow the Honda Lady for the weekend, and we're going to go take pictures of it at the apple orchard with my friend Jeremy, who's actually in the chat right now. Do you want to come with?
Right.
So we go to this apple orchard that's like her favorite place in her favorite car, and that's when I proposed to her. And because I did it under the guise of writing an article about it. My favorite part about that is that 2 days before, excuse me, I'm sorry. No, I was right. 2 days before that, before I proposed to her, Jim Florentine came through the Funny Stop.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah.
And Pete asked me, and it was the first time he asked me to work do time for a big headliner, like a big touring headliner.
Yeah.
So I said, sure, like I'll do 7 or 8 minutes for in front of Florentine, which is great because I grew up watching Comedy Central. Like my sister and I bonded over Crank Yankers. Like love
so
Florentine. Good. And he's telling a story about dating because he was single. And he talks about like girls, this girl says, "What's your perfect date?" And I said, "Well, you asked, so you go first." And she said, "Oh, my perfect date is going to an apple orchard and picking apples." And I said, "Oh, that's my 9/11." And so 2 days later, I go to a fucking apple orchard to propose to my wife.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful day. Like this has been 8 years in the making, whatever. And I'm walking around the apple orchard with my wife, and back and forth, we just keep, as we're picking fucking apples, going, "That's my 9/11."
That's awesome,
So thanks.
man.
I think I
It's
got it
Jim
right
Florentine.
here. Yeah, I got a picture of me with.
Yeah, pull that up. Pull that out. Let's see that.
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. Jeremy took this picture of me. This is me and Florentine that day.
What does this mask say?
His mask says "That Metal Show." Mine says "This is a robbery."
Nice.
I love it.
It was just it was super cool. It was
awesome as fuck, dude.
But yeah, I hope I'm in town because I was out of town for a race last year when Florentine was back, and I wanted to tell him like, "Hey, thanks for
getting me hitched."
like basically, yeah, like you ruined my engagement, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Right. So
That's awesome.
Any kids on the way, or are you right now?
We're still on the fence about it. Here's the thing:
how old are you, bro? Right now,
34.
You gotta get going, man.
I do a whole bit in my set about having kids and waiting and autism and all that.
You gotta pop some puppies out, bro.
I don't know.
Don't wait too long.
Here's the problem: is that I could have a kid, and now I am a comic and a race car driver, and I make almost enough money, but not quite enough money. And it's like for the two of us, let alone a kid, it's like that kid's gonna think it's really cool until they get old enough to notice how much of a fucking loser their dad is.
You'll never be a loser to them if you're a father. It doesn't matter about money. It matters about integrity and being there for them and creating memories. It doesn't matter about money.
I hope so, man. We go back and forth. I got a niece.
Does she want kids, or do you want kids? Like, is she pressing?
I actually, the big joke with my wife and all of her friends is that I have baby fever way worse than she does.
Really? So she doesn't want kids then?
It's not that she doesn't want kids. It's just that I want kids way more than she does.
How old is she?
So she's 35.
Oh shit!
36. She's 18 months younger. Yeah, 18 months younger than me, or older than me, or something like that.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, kids, it's a lot of work. That's where I disappeared to. One of my kids said one of my other kids was missing, so I had to drive down the block and go over to his friend's house where he's at because it's dark now. And
grab his ass.
And he was outside playing with the other kid and the other kid's dad or whatever. And I just rolled down the window and I'm like, "Go home now, go home now." I just turned around the cul-de-sac, drove back, and boom, back on the stream.
That's good. You found him, man.
I mean, I knew he was at one of these houses.
Yeah.
But it's like.
No, I mean, here's the other thing too, is that I'm still trying to do things. I'm like right on the cusp of making something happen with racing, and I'm right on the cusp of making something happen with comedy. And I would hate to have a kid and have to take a back seat to that. And it wouldn't bother me until the first time that kid started to rebel against me, as kids are wont to do. And then I would start to resent that kid. And I never want to put myself in a position where I would ever resent a kid for something that they didn't ask for or something that they didn't do.
Isn't that kind of selfish though? A little bit.
It is very selfish, and I'm saying that I'm still too
immature for that.
I guess. Yeah, I guess I'm willing to say that I'm a little bit immature still. I think I'd be a really great dad, but I just know looming in the back of my head that there'd be certain things I would sacrifice and certain opportunities I wouldn't take.
You just got
it's one of those things too. Takes like 9 months, so you get a lot of time to like mentally think about it before it comes.
And
so
start
you
understanding.
kind of transform naturally, just as it comes. So
I mean, I've kind of enjoyed being a house husband the past couple months.
Yeah,
and just like it was my wife's birthday last week, and she came home and the house was like totally clean and like everything was done. And
you got a maid.
Yeah, I was the maid,
Oh,
and it felt really good for me to have everything taken care of. She didn't have to think about anything. So like, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I just think neither of us we're both successful enough to support the two of us. And I don't think either of us are successful enough to carry all three of us, which would be me, her, and a kid. So, like I said, if I can make something happen next year with sponsorship or whatever, I think.
What happens if you can't, though?
I mean, what happens if I can is I just keep staying the course, right? And at some point, I'm just going to have to decide. At some point within the next 18 to 24 months, I'm going to have to decide if I'm going to keep going with racing, or if I'm just going to kind of have to treat it more as a hobby. I've got a couple friends that are like my age that are dealing with this exact same shit.
Yeah.
Of, do I treat it as a hobby, or do I take it seriously, or do we have a kid, or do we not, or whatever? I mean, I've got a niece right now that I'm absolutely crazy about. She's fantastic. Just the absolute just light of my life, man. Like I remember when I was still working at a dealership, I came home from work. It was one of the worst days I'd ever had at work. And I didn't know that she would be visiting. And I opened the door to my house, and she's sitting on the floor with my sister-in-law, and she turns around and she goes, "Cam." And
don't you want that being your own kid though?
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Is just everything melted away. There's nothing in the universe that could be bad.
All right.
When you've got that. So that's the thing that makes me really want to have a kid.
I mean, I don't mean to be coarse here with you.
Yeah.
But like you said, your wife is a little bit older than you. She's 35. That biological clock is ticking, obviously.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like I do a
she said
whole
she
joke
wants
about
kids, right?
autism. No, I'm the one who wants kids more than she does.
So why doesn't she
Would you want to have kids with me?
Yeah, I mean, if I love you, sure. I mean, I don't love you. I mean, maybe, but let's not talk. We'll talk off air. But I mean, if she loves you and you guys have talked about it, and something you really want, and does she say she wants that too, or she's not really wanting to have kids? Some ladies don't.
We go back and forth. Life's really complicated right now for us, right?
Okay,
I'm still figuring out. Figuring out what's going to happen next year, but I mean, like even what's going to happen next month. So after I'm very laser focused on the race this weekend. And then once I get back from that, it's going to be a flurry of interviews and figuring out what I'm going to do for next year and making sponsorship proposals and stuff. And then from there, there's going to be some decisions to be made. And
I mean, she's working too though, right?
Yeah. I mean, she's
like very career driven, I'm guessing, correct?
Like she's not like your typical, like quote unquote, like career woman. Like she has a job that she's very good at and very passionate about,
right?
But she's not like the Hallmark movie. Like my career is so important. I have no time for love.
I can't have kids. I don't have time. Type of thing.
Yeah. She's not like that. She's just, she's very practical and pragmatic about things. Whereas I'm very much more, I hate saying this, but like very much like the artist and the dreamer and whatever. And she totally supports that. She loves that about me, but, she's very much, she's much more practical with stuff. And I guess I'm pretty practical about certain things.
I mean, yeah.
So,
I mean, if you got a good wife, then
yeah,
that's the thing. Like once a woman has a baby, then even if they're like a career person, like they want to focus on the baby and spend time with that. So most of them at least.
I bring a lot of pets home, right? Like I bring a lot of animals home.
What do you got?
We've got chickens and cats right now is all we have.
Nice.
But she'd be a great mom. Very much so. Like I remember my oldest chicken and the one that I raised from a day old, Loretta, was getting very sick, getting very old, and we thought we were going to lose her. And like Bethany was sitting out there with the chicken, like giving it baths, and like Beth would be a great mom, is I guess what I'm getting at. And I know I would be a great dad. It's just picking the right time. It's the whole like opening of the Idiocracy.
There's never a right time.
It's like, we're always waiting for a right time, and there never is. And then like fucking Jethro just
impregnate her, bro. What are you waiting for?
Yeah. I have 4 kids. I never planned any of them. Bro.
Yeah, I didn't plan my kid. I just
pop them out and give them to my wife to take care of. And
I'll have to invest my 2,200 Dogecoin really intelligently to be able to
When did you get your Doge?
Uh,
At the top.
no. Back when it was worthless, I mined
man.
it off of my shitty work computers, and
What
then
is
transferred
Doge
it
at
into
right
a
now?
wallet at home.
It almost got to $1, right?
Dogecoin, I think, got to like 71 cents at one point,
Yeah.
and I thought I was hot shit because I had like $1,600 in Dogecoin, and yeah, an old job I had, I was mining Dogecoin on like 3 of the work computers until they
Yeah.
actually hired an IT guy that knew his ass from a hole in the ground. It's like, hey, what's going on here? And I'm like, oh, it must have been some website that opened up in the background. And
Right.
yeah,
Damn, man. All right. What I'm getting from you is this is a vibe I'm getting. I could be totally wrong,
sure.
but you're a working class comedian / racer. That is your main jobs at this
Yeah.
point to make money. Your wife has a job where she kind of she works there, but it's not like a career type of thing. She just loves her job.
It is a career for her,
Okay.
but it's like she doesn't believe it's her life's work to do that.
Okay. And you guys have been together since you're in your early 20s.
Yeah.
Now you guys in your mid 30s, right? Hitting almost 40. You're guys on the wrong side of 30 at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 34, she's 36.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're
We're right on the cusp of like
right on the cusp.
we have to make a choice pretty soon.
Yeah, because once you
I
hit
would wanna
40, I mean, or like late 30s, you start having those issues where your kid might be mentally challenged, shit
Yeah, like I
that.
said, like I do a whole joke about that, about like wanting to have a kid with autism on purpose because my friends are complaining that their kids don't put their toys away, and my kid will have his shit sorted by color.
Oh my god. I mean, I understand. Like you said, you're just waiting for the right time, but like him and I said, there is no right time.
Yeah.
Mir's a new dad, so
I'm a new dad.
He's in the recruitment phase.
Yeah,
He is. Yeah.
I'm like Gavin
Everybody's
McInnes over here. You need to start having kids now.
Yeah. Once you have one, then you can start telling everyone else to have one too.
That's right.
No, it is. It's like it's a
do it now. I don't care how homeless you are. All right?
Join the club of no sleep with everyone else.
Yeah, man.
You'll never. It's a cliche thing. Like you'll never sleep the same again. I don't know if it's necessarily true, but it is like. Somewhat, it's different. You can't just sleep in because they make, even when their kids are older, it's like they're up and they make noise, and you got to think about what they're doing. So it does change things. But it's part of life.
I gotta show this real quick. Here you go.
No, that's terrible. The car market is terrible right now.
It's horrible,
Interest
especially
rates
used
are
sell
so
cars.
high, and there's
horrible.
such a shortage of new cars. Like you
better to buy a brand new car.
Yeah, like. Man, if you know how well used Subarus hold their value, like everything holds their value like a Subaru now.
Right, especially pickup trucks. Holy fuck, dude, that shit is astronomical.
All right, I'm looking at the chat now. Tubby says, after kids, will he stop racing? So we mentioned this, Mir, before the podcast, that I have a rule with my wife that after my second concussion that I have to be hospitalized for, I'm done. Because the eventual goal is that I would want to move to broadcasting is what I'd like to do eventually. So
that's the beauty right now. I mean, if you do this, like we are doing it for fun, but there's people who dedicate all their time to doing a show, and you can make a living from home doing a show, and even especially like if you have a passion about something. Like I always tell Ray, like I'm into baseball cards now because my son is.
Yeah.
And
how old's your son?
I got the one who's into baseball cards is 7.
Okay, cool.
But like now I'm watching like baseball card YouTube, and there's just like there's so many views on all these like box breaks and all this stuff. But like for you, if you're into cars, you can do a car theme show. That's a huge sub
huge
thing.
Market.
Comedy, of course, art. There's so much you can do if you have a passion for it, and you can monetize it. And I think with Web3 and all the crypto stuff, in the nearer future, it's going to be everything you do on the internet. It's going to have micro payments and monetization for attention. So I think it's going to make it very. I don't know if you can get it maybe as rich as like a Rogan, but like you can do. I don't know if there will be people getting that big or like a Mr. Beast, but there'll be more people online exchanging.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I have a few friends that are YouTubers full time that make a nice living full time. One of my friends is a racer that makes a living doing YouTube. that more or less funds his day to day while he goes racing. So
Yeah.
there's definitely some value to that. It's something I want to work on when I get back from Seattle. One of the jobs that I might start working in the off season is a hot rod shop. So making chassis and frames for old, like traditional style
hot rods,
like hot rods that are built in the style they would have been in like the 50s and early 1960s. So
gotcha. Okay.
Which is like something I'm like kind of like a weird fetishy thing with cars that I'm into is traditional style hot rods. Like not necessarily just pre 1964 cars, but cars built in the techniques and style. Like if you find an old copy of Hot Rod Magazine or Carcraft Magazine or Popular Mechanics from the 50s or 60s, like built to that style with those parts and those techniques and those tools. So it's just fascinating to me that that's like the birth of my hobby and what I'm into and kind of wanting to preserve it. So
I showed you a couple of my cars, right?
Yeah, I showed my wife the Bronco because she loves Broncos. She's big into Broncos.
Yeah.
It's just
yeah, I don't race or anything. I just got that sports car just to,
Yeah, the BMW is nice. I love the color. It's very close to my favorite individual BMW color, which is Santorini blue, if you're familiar.
Yeah, I don't know that one, but I guess that's Laguna Seca blue. It's
Laguna Seca blue is very close to Santorini. So
I get a lot of comments on it. I mainly got it because I just needed a coupe that like I could drive around, and my wife wouldn't be able to drive because it's a stick. So it's like my car,
You can fit baby seats in the back of it though, pretty easily.
Yeah, I never really did. I used to take my kids to school in it. My two older kids, and that was fine. They could fit in the back, but I don't know. It's just a toy, basically.
Yeah, it's tougher now, right? Because like a kid has to be in a booster seat until they're like 12.
I don't do any of that shit. I do it for
I know.
I got my my kids that are under 3. I put them in car seats. But
Yeah,
once they're
obviously.
like old enough, I just
like you want infants and toddlers in a car seat, but like I remember because it started shortly after I got like my driver's license was when they started pushing the if a kid has to be in a booster seat until they're 12. I'm like, if I would have pulled up, my parents would have dropped me off and I would have been in a booster seat. I would have gotten my ass kicked.
You weren't even wearing a seatbelt, I guaranteed at that
Yeah,
time.
my parents had a Mercury Sable with a rear facing child seat. Remember those in the station wagons?
Yeah.
And now, like,
from the old films and shit.
If somebody's
you're talking about.
like riding back there, the cops will pull you over now.
Yeah, I mean everything kind of changed. They went heavy into seatbelts around that same time too. Remember, like before, it was like kind of like, if you're in the back seat, you don't need a seatbelt.
They gotta
Like in the mid 2000s, then it was like, like everyone's the beeping in the cars, all that type of crap started happening.
Yeah, my A-Barth will just rip if you don't have your seatbelt on, bro. It'll just go off the whole
Just scream
time.
at you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotta keep your taxpayers alive. That's what I gotta say.
Yeah, keep your voter base alive.
That's right.
I got another quick question
Yeah, good.
on cars. I'm looking. Do you know anything about like whatever commercial cars or what are they even called? Retail cars? Because I need to get a big SUV. I don't know what the hell to get. Like one with 3 rows.
Like when you say big SUV, there's a couple schools of thought here. Are you talking like a 3-row crossover? Or are you talking like a body on a frame SUV?
Is there a crossover style with the 3rd row?
Yeah, there is. So if I was going to do a 3-row crossover, I would probably do an Explorer or maybe like a Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Pathfinders are a pretty good value right now. There's like the Rock Creek that looks like an extended Xterra that's kind of neat. I like the Explorers a lot. If I was going to do a 3-row body on frame SUV, it would be a Tahoe. No questions asked. And if I had my choice of which one I would do the Tahoe.
What about that Wagoneer? That thing looks pretty dope. Too new.
It is very too new, dude. You don't really know too much about it statistic-wise.
It's too new from a company not known particularly for getting things right away. And it's so much like there's so much car, even if you're looking at 3-row SUVs, even if you're looking at 3-row luxury SUVs, there's a lot of car you can buy for Grand Wagoneer money.
Because they're pretty high in price.
And I say this as somebody who like the original Grand Wagoneer is one of my dream cars. So
yeah, the OG with the wood.
Yeah, like I'm crazy about those things. It sucks that they've been used in like every TV show and Hallmark movie because now they're even more expensive because like hipsters that don't know anything about cars want them. So they're even more expensive than they normally would be. I'll never own one. I'll never
My
be able
neighbor down in Florida was selling one. Yeah, they had it in their driveway for sale forever. I never inquired on it, but it was one of the ones with the wood panel. It's like
Yeah.
fucking great for the beach.
Those things. So the thing you got to remember about original Grand Wagoneers, not to get too off topic, is that actually if you pull like the square headlights and grill off of them, they have the round openings. Like it's still the original Wagoneer from the 60s. So it's designed like a car from the 60s.
Oh,
So
sweet.
they rust in places that you didn't even know there was metal to rust. Like they're not built particularly well. Like there's a reason that fully restored Grand Wagoneers from companies like Wagon Masters and stuff go for like 80, 90, 100 grand. Because to make like you can't restore that car back to how it was on the showroom. You have to go steps beyond that to make it actually a decent vehicle. So
yeah, no, I was just curious because I'm at that point where I want to get something big enough. But then you also like that's so big that like I can't be like going on like 7 hour. I mean, you can, but it's like it's gonna eat gas.
I would say honestly, like if you can swing it, man, like a Tahoe. A Tahoe, and they're so easy to drive. If you can get the Tahoe, especially that's got the 360-degree camera in it, they're so easy to drive and park, and they last forever. I mean, one of my best friends had like, until he traded it in on a new truck, I think he had like 220,000 miles on like a 12-year-old Tahoe, and it asked for nothing besides like basic maintenance. It was a great truck.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, those. I am not a GM fan. I do not like hardly any. Like,
General
if it was
Motors,
up to
you don't
me,
like General Motors, bro?
Yeah, if it was up to me, the only thing General Motors would be allowed to build would be the Corvette and the Tahoe.
Oh.
Like even their, I don't know how their full size trucks, like their half-ton trucks, are so bad, and then the Tahoe, which is built on effectively the same platform, is such a good truck.
Watch out for the Japanese with building trucks, dude.
Yeah, no, the Titans are surprisingly good for the money. You get a lot of truck for the money. The Tundras are really good. So,
I mean, the Japanese know what they're doing. I mean, ever since they came over during what was it? Was it late 70s, early 80s when they came over to the States to start implementing their workforce and whatnot in their factories? I mean, you've seen Gung Ho, right, with Michael Keaton?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was a great film. You know, it was obviously it's comedic and whatnot, but it kind of gave you an idea what was going on during that time period when Japan started to mass produce their cars in America. It was
so.
Go ahead.
When people ask me for like regular car recommendations, I recommend the Japanese most of the time.
What about Subaru though? Foresters and all that shit.
Yeah, and
you recommend that shit?
What's that?
I heard they kind of are shitty though. After what was it?
Foresters. So you hit like the 120,000 mile mark, and
Subarus
get real expensive. But I still like Subarus a lot. People are always shocked because by and large, my wife and I have American cars and German cars and a few Japanese cars. We have a lot of cars kind of kicking around because of me.
Yeah, right.
And
you're a car guy, so it's obvious.
Yeah. So I spend a lot of time. I think between the two of us, we have like 12 cars right now or something like that. Crazy. So people are always shocked because I recommend Japanese cars over just about everything, unless it's a 3-row SUV situation, in which case the Explorer and the Tahoe are the two that I like. But people don't understand that like my life is cars. So it's like I'm willing to put up with the idiosyncrasies of owning certain things.
Right.
So it's like I like my Fords a lot, but like I don't expect anyone else to bear that cross the same way I do. Like I have a lot of, I mean,
so your average American who's owning a car, you don't expect them to, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have was it Randy Peckawood Marsh? Sorry, just saw where are they parked? I have I'm trying to think 5 or 6 at my house, and then I have another 3 or 4 at my hangar, and then there's one I keep at my parents' house still, so that my dad kind of likes.
Yeah.
So I just have my cars kind of spread around a couple places. Oh, and then my one Mazda is living with my friend down in mid Ohio at the racetrack because he's trying to sell it for me.
I was gonna say my father-in-law used to own some used car dealerships.
Yeah.
And dude, he's got more money than anyone ever, and he always buys the same car. It's like I think it's like the big-bodied Lexus SUV. He's like,
they last forever. I mean, when you look at videos of like guys in the Middle East that have never even seen what a car dealership service department looks like, and they're driving around pickup trucks with 50 cals mounted in the bed. If you take that and add leather to it, that's the full-size Lexus SUV. Like, that's literally and figuratively bulletproof.
Yeah, that's something I gotta. Do they still make that one, or because I don't know?
They do. There's like a
I know they
X470 or something. There's a local comic that I'm friends with that pulled up in one of those, like a used one, at the comedy club like a month ago, and I'm like, "Did you just buy this?" And he's like, "No, my buddy's dad was selling it for $1,000, and I couldn't get it, so my dad bought it, and he's just letting me drive it." I'm like, "You couldn't scrape together $1,000 to buy the last car you will ever need to buy in your life."
Damn, you can get them that cheap?
No, this one had like 320,000 miles on it. But like, I mean, like
I'll buy 10 of them right now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. You can buy 10 of them, and you'll have 8 left when you die. They're terrific. I mean, shit. Like, I race a Toyota Celica with a pickup truck motor in it for endurance racing, and that's what I love about it, is how bulletproof those cars are. Like, this race last year, the car was profoundly broken, like fuel tank, like fuel pump leaking, electrical system not working, camber on the front wheels totally messed up, and we still came in second in class in that car. And like, I mean, like, it's an unkillable car. If you're doing endurance racing and beating the absolute piss out of something, like, it's hard to beat a Toyota. So
there you go. The Japanese don't know what they're doing. I kind of want to dive back into comedy, though.
Yeah, me too.
You go ahead. No, Dr. Chow, you said you had questions.
I do, and it's a comedy related, but it's also this whole thing that me and Mir, like a lot of our people we've been interviewing are from this thing called like Dabblerverse or Hackverse.
Yeah.
Do you follow any of that?
Yeah, I mean, like, Ray DeVito kind of got me into it a little bit. I was on his show quite a few times, and then I
fuck with Ray?
Ray was the first guy I featured for the first road gig that I did. Like, Ray has a special place in my heart, but Ray,
is he as cuckoo as people say he is? You know,
Ray's different. Ray's different.
He's special. All right.
So Ray does a lot of shit that really pisses me off.
Right.
A lot of shit that really pisses me off. Like, some of my
of my
worst experiences in comedy have Ray involved in some way. Stories. But it's tough to hold him accountable for it because of like
how innocent he is.
Ray has this mix of oblivious. Yeah, it's like childlike obliviousness and innocence to him. And he's earnest. He's very earnest and sincere too. And so it's very, very hard to dislike him. So it's like, it became, when I was on his podcast a lot, because there was like a period of about a month where I was on his podcast quite a bit. And people would be pissy with me about like throwing softballs at Ray. And it's like, have you not been paying attention? Like, if you throw anything even remotely prickly at him, he'll shut it down and he'll shut you down.
Right.
Like, you kind of have to like, so you kind of have to like hold his hand a little bit and like be like, okay, well, how did you feel about this? Whatever. So it's like, I made the mistake of making a joke. Oh, no. And Ray I was supposed to be on Kevin Brennan's podcast. I was supposed to be talking to Shuli about a show, like all this stuff. And then I made a joke where I basically paraphrased what Ray said. And Ray completely cut me off. Like, Ray finished the show out with me and everything. But I haven't talked to him since.
No shit. What'd you say? Let me hear that joke. What'd you say?
So Ray was talking about basically when he was growing up, he was sleeping. Him and his 2 sisters were sleeping in the same room.
Right.
And I think there's a guy on Twitter, Franklin R. Sheckler or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about how his parents built basically a shed in the backyard for him to live in. And the guy was joking, like, did they just run an extension cord out to it? Like, was it tied in? Because like he was trying to like not admit it was a shed, but it was like, and I'm like, so was it tied in with the heat and air conditioning of the house? Was there an extension cord running to the shed, and that's how you got your electricity? And he was explaining that basically this happened because he was getting to an age where he was like a teenage boy and he was going to be in the room with teenage girls. And I made a joke like, did you do something inappropriate with members of your family? And that's why your parents built a shed and forced you to sleep in the shed.
Some Michael Myers shit. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
and everybody that I've shown the clip to is like, that is the only way to perceive what he said. And he got so pissed off that he actually shut my mic off for like a minute.
He's like, no,
Which
no,
leads
no,
me,
no,
and now that he
no.
hasn't
started
talked to
making
me since,
faces.
I'm like, I was just joking, but maybe something really did happen.
Oh shit.
That is interesting because Ray kind of seems like the type that likes to be very controlling.
Ray very much is like, if he'll invite you onto his podcast, but you won't be able to. Like, I'm sorry I talk so much tonight, but like when I'm on Ray's show,
You're our guest. We're
Yeah,
interviewing
no,
you.
I
You're
don't
supposed to
get
talk a lot.
but like that's not how Ray is at all.
Well, I gotta
I would
say,
try to ask Ray questions to get him talking about stuff he liked to try to make the show better. Because I used to
Right.
have like a really popular automotive podcast years ago. And so when I get on a podcast, I kind of get in that mode, and I'm sorry.
No, you're awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
I
But
think
thank you.
you guys are gonna be cool because yeah, he was saying the same things about me. He cut me off from his show. He had me on with you once, and then
Yeah.
also some
Really
other
did.
times around that time. And then he was mad at me and he cut me off. But then I was on his show during the day, so out of the blue. So
Yeah, like
I think
if
he just
didn't
forgets his
believe-
beefs or what
Sorry.
he's mad about, and then he'll probably just forget that he was mad at you eventually. You know.
Like if I didn't think that I was friends with the dude, I wouldn't have, like if it was somebody I just met or somebody I didn't think I was reasonably tight with, I wouldn't have made that joke because I guess that joke could be perceived as being hurtful. But I'm kind of pissed off about it because
Yeah,
like
'cause
you should know as an adult, as a guy that's apparently somebody, because hey, if you've known Ray for 5 minutes, you've known that he headlined Caroline's because he'll fucking tell you. Like when he meets people, he'll give them his entire resume in like 30 seconds and then continue the conversation.
Was
It's one
that
of the
short?
funniest things I've ever seen.
Well, I noticed he's very concerned with comedy status too. Like once he had that one Tracy chick on, and he was like telling her like, yeah, I mean, if they're, I'll do a show if they're allowing me to do like 10 to 20 minutes at the open mic. I won't do like 5 minutes though. I'm above that now. I've moved on to that from that. So to me, it's like maybe he's just like he's put in his dues and time, and
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
what he's
here's
got, you know.
Yeah, here's the thing. It's like I joke about like he mentions that he headlined Caroline's. Like nobody else like here in like Cleveland or Akron has headlined Caroline's. Like good for him. And it's just like I don't know what it is with him. The thing that makes Ray really uncomfortable to watch when he performs stand up is that he'll have almost a whole crowd that loves him, and there'll be one table off to the side that's not engaged. And like your best set that you've had in your life, there'll be a table like that. And instead of just like leaning into the energy he's built up and the momentum he's built up, he'll just focus on that one table that doesn't like him. And then gradually he'll lose the rest of those people. And it's difficult to watch. It's difficult to watch because like I like Ray, because like Ray's kind of my buddy. Ray gave me an opportunity really early on. And it's like, you don't forget those things.
Right.
And it's just, you can't have a conversation with him about it without him acting like you're attacking him. And I don't know. I guess as weird as he is, as different as he is, like, look, we're stand-ups. We're all a little fucked up and weird.
You guys are all fucking tweakers, but go ahead. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. So I just wish that Ray would, I guess I wish I could have like a real conversation with Ray.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And like, I'll put it to you this way. I used to work with this guy that I really, really liked. And he would tell these amazing stories about shit. And he would lie a lot
Nice.
about a lot of really inconsequential shit. But like randomly, you would find out through your own research that he was actually telling the truth about like 70% of the shit he was talking about. And it was the 70% of the shit that mattered. Like he talked about like, okay, I'll put it to you this way, because you'll get this, Dr. Chow, where like he would talk about like how he used to be a producer on The Real World and Road Rules, and how he went out drinking with Mark Wahlberg and had Mark Wahlberg as a contact in his cell phone and played paintball with him or something, and that he also owned a BMW M3, like an E30 M3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the E30 was a lie. And it's like, why are you lying about that when you have all this other cool, interesting shit you've done? And he just wanted to be liked so badly
Right.
that
Right.
like he didn't realize that the more he lied about inconsequential like we liked him in spite of that, and we would love him more if he wasn't like that. And I feel like Ray in a different way is kind of in that category.
I knew a kid like that, a good friend growing up, who was like that too, where he would like, I just remember he would like make up the most random stuff, like even when he was on his phone with his mom, like he would just lie, an inconsequential lie for the sake of doing it. And then like he would tell stories like, oh yeah, like, you hear what this guy did? He put tax in the, like, it was just like goofy stuff that like everyone could cross-reference, but yeah, I don't know. It seemed like it was like something like in his mind where it was like,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it has to be something.
The pills, the drinking.
well, I wasn't talking about Ray, but
Oh,
But
the
yeah,
kid might have been drinking or
with
doing
Ray,
pills.
like Ray.
Ray only
When I
tells the
featured
truth.
with Ray, like Ray and I had like a really serious conversation, kind of unprompted, about like his physical health. Like Ray doesn't really like mess around. Like I'll stand up for Ray on that. Ray, as far as I know, doesn't really mess around with like drugs and shit.
Unless
Right.
they're prescribed to him.
Yeah, I think he's on. Well, he told us when he was on our show he has like some medication, but yeah, I don't think he really like doesn't.
Yeah,
he,
like, he's not-
He's not
uppers or
popping
downers.
Xanax or perks.
Right.
Yeah, he's not like an addict or a
He's not taking
partier
Loxleys.
or anything like that. Like he's just Ray, man. I don't know what else to say. Like it's just, it bothers me, and then I get bothered that I'm so invested in it because like why should I care? But
He's
I
your
do,
friend.
because he's my
Thing-
friend.
The
Like,
thing
you
you
don't-
mentioned about the comedy club, where like he would be having a great set and then like divert his attention from his set
Yeah.
to like the table. He does that on his podcast a lot, where he's like in the middle of like a good conversation and then he'll like go off on a tangent on something or like just pop up a chat. Like it's like he can like be in the middle of a sentence of a good riff and then he'll just like switch to something else out of the blue. It's like he's like doesn't focus, you know.
I have actually a question that I know an answer to from Randy Peckawood Marsh. I'm reading the comments now.
Oh,
Go for it.
Yeah,
haven't
So,
been
sorry. So
looking.
Randy Peckawood Marsh, bees keep attacking my crop. Purple-headed females, which is interesting. Kind of, I feel like it's kind of late in the season for that. Got them netted. Any thoughts, Cam? Bees are a very, very important part of the ecosystem at large, but your individual garden or whatever you have going on in your backyard, bees can actually kind of wreak havoc on that. So the best solution to that is you should have some local, some kind of local organization. As far as like for me, I have the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, Lake Metro Parks, whatever. There should be somebody you can call that can actually put you in touch with a local beekeeper who will rehome those bees and actually find a place for them. So it's really cool that you didn't kill them and that you actually netted them and trapped them. But yeah, you can actually, it's weird, but if you call, or you might even call animal control. Animal control should also know some local beekeepers that will actually come and take care of that for you and actually take care of it, can help you take care of it semi-permanently too, which is pretty neat.
Well, he could net them. He's got them netted, so why don't you throw them in a big UPS box and ship them over to Ray?
Ship them over to
ship-
Ray.
Hooray.
Ship them
Pull
over to
some
Ray with
Nicolas
some
Cage
Mike
type
Piazza
shit.
rookie cards.
Oh yeah,
There
the
you go.
Piazzas, dude, and that's the thing. Like I told him I'd give him to him if he was sober a week. I trust his word that he is, and then he'd go on his show like every day after, like, yeah, man, he never sent them, and I keep telling him, dude, just tell me where to send them. I DM him like, tell me where to send them, and
Yeah, I
he
remember
just doesn't
that. That was
respond.
weird.
So it's
Do
like,
you have any football cards? Do you have any Coach Joe Gibbs cards?
no, I have some, but I don't know Gibbs.
Ray had one, and or a Bernie Kosar. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, Gibbs is a big racing guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. My wife and I are friends with some people at Joe Gibbs Racing, his racing team. It's kind of cool because he runs his racing team like a football team. So
Is there a racing team called Knaus or something?
no, Chad. So Chad Knaus is probably one of the greatest crew chiefs in the history of the sport. So
Yeah, I got a story.
Okay.
Is that guy from? Does he have some tie to like Chicago?
Maybe.
I think there's some Knaus dealerships, and then I almost bought this house that was
Oh yeah, Rockford, Illinois. Yeah, he was born in Rockford.
So I almost bought this house from a guy who was somehow tied in with them, and he had like invested in the team, and he was like a racing guy, and he had
Yeah.
a nice house, and basically he got like ripped off somehow in they shut down the racing. Maybe this was probably back in, I guess it came up upon financial trouble around like 2010 to 2013 or something.
Okay.
That happens a lot, man. I got hosed this year on a sponsorship deal with a dealership network, and I was actually working with them. So like that, when that blew up a lot of shit for me. But basically it's a story as old as time in racing, is that there's a lot of money to be made partnering with dealerships, and there's a lot of money to be lost partnering with dealerships.
I don't know what the deal was with. I just know the Canals. I know the guys whose house it was that I was potentially going to buy from the bank was somehow tied into this racing world, and like I guess someone at the bank or something told me like the story about how he got ripped off, and then
If it makes you feel any better, Chad Knaus is doing great. He won 7 championships with Jimmy Johnson. He never has to worry about money ever again. He's beloved in the sport, despite the fact that he's probably one of the most prolific cheaters in the sport. And I say that with all due respect, because like in racing, the better you are at finding your way around the rule book, the better you are.
Yeah.
So it's not cheating, it's innovation. And Chad Knaus is one of the most innovative crew chiefs of all time. Like I said, 7 championships. He's a Hall of Famer for sure. Like he turned out fine. So
I think there's some of that to like everything.
I think that is, if you don't get caught cheating, you're one of the greatest.
Yeah, like football. I think there's like the Belichick thing. Like he got caught.
So like this is like so cheating in racing is a little bit different in terms of like, I'll give you an example. Like so there's a minimum weight cars have to achieve, right? And obviously the lighter a car is, the faster it is.
Yeah.
So the rule book states there's a minimum weight. Well, at the time when this was happening, the guys would pour buckshot into the hollow void of the roll cage.
Yeah.
And then they would pull a string and it would open it and all the buckshot would roll out. And then the car would be like 200 or 300 pounds lighter. At the time, there was nothing in the rule books that said the car has to weigh this much when it's inspected. End of the rule.
Right.
Which means you're not breaking the rules technically if the car weighs less immediately after inspection.
Right.
So like Chad Knaus was like the expert of that, but like he was the expert of that in an era where everything had been tried and he kept finding new shit to do that would get one over on the officials.
I mean, they're still cheating today in any sport.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stuff they got a team on the truck series just got fined big time because they had a device in the left rear tire that would basically over time slowly let out air. So as the tires got warmer, the air pressure got lower, so they had more and more grip.
Yeah.
So they were just driving away from everybody, and they eventually figured out that there was this little device was, I mean, it's just, and I love stuff like that. Like I love, because it's legal now, you know. But
yeah, it's kind of like part of the...
it was borderline. Yeah. So like a lot of races are won and lost in the gray area. And like the kind of racing I do, like I don't,
have you ever cheated before in racing?
No, so I can say that with all seriousness. Like hand to God, I've never cheated in a race before, but it's because I'm also not operating at a level where that kind of thing matters. It's not worth it to me to do that, you know?
Yeah, there's not millions on the line.
But if I was in Cup, if I was in Xfinity, if I
definitely,
I would want the cheatingest, most smooth talking, most clever crew chief I could find. Like if I walked into any room at my race shop and I was the smartest guy in that room, I would find a new team.
That makes sense. You know, you want, like you said, it's innovation, or it's, you know, if you're laying in bed and you're trying to think of ways to win, like, oh, well, maybe we could do. It's just part of.
So I have helped a friend of mine cheat. Innovate. So there's a class at like every local short track in America has a class for like front wheel drive economy cars.
Yeah. And
typically, you know, the engine and transmission are turned sideways, and then there's like the CV axles, and there's a little motor mount on the top side and one on the underside. Well, the one on the underside is like flexible rubber, so it's not so shocking when you're driving it. And you have to run the stock motor mount.
Okay.
But all the windows in your house are kind of glued in place with this like black butyl adhesive window weld stuff that dries up pretty gummy, but still pretty firm.
Okay.
At the time, I figured out there was nothing in the rule books that says that you couldn't fill the voids in that rubber mount with window weld and make it almost as tight as
Make it more
as like
aerodynamic.
a solid aluminum one, you know, or one that had polyurethane bushings in it or whatever. So that gave my buddy like a little edge, you know, but he still had to be a better driver than everybody else because that one little thing isn't going to give him an edge unless he's also a better driver. So that stayed legal for a couple years until everybody started doing it, and then it caught on, and then okay, you can't do that anymore. So
You're an innovator. You're an innovator, man.
But like me personally, with my own racing, I haven't
You
had an
stay
opportunity.
clean.
You know what? I'll be straight with you. Like I haven't done it because I haven't had an opportunity to.
Yeah.
That's what
The
that
guys-
is.
yeah.
I got into with my son. I got into Pinewood Derby.
Yeah.
Know about
Pinewood
that?
Yeah.
Derby.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. They cheat
Dude.
all the fucking time. And it's like not innovating. That is blatant cheating in Pinewood Derby.
Yeah. So I would like watch shows or like do stuff, and I would just be sitting there sanding the car all the time. I made a super dang car.
Yeah.
But dude, of course, like I think we got second, but the one that won, it was basically just you can look on Google. There's tons of YouTube. There's tons of videos on like how to make your car the best.
Yeah. I bet the thing was
100
twin turbo
tips.
fucking. My favorite thing about Pinewood Derby is all this effort you would put into like thinking about weight and aerodynamics. And what it really comes down to is how true your wheels are and how true your axles are.
Exactly.
You could have a solid block of wood that as long as it was the appropriate weight, like you'd be fine.
Yeah, 5 ounces, I think.
Yeah. Me and my buddy Jeremy, who's in the chat right now, we do RC car racing in the off season.
Oh, I bet that's fun as fuck.
Yeah, with like the really high end RC cars, and there's like a minimum weight that you have to achieve, and like everybody puts the weight onto one side to skew it. And I actually like from looking at some of the cars and stuff had this idea of like they don't weigh the cars after. So it's like, what if I created it in such a way that some of the weights were like the adhesive was real loose so that the weights would fall off
as it's driving
and it's just like at that point I'm like, it's just club racing. It's just me killing time with my friends. Like I don't
want
you know what I mean? Like I don't want to be that guy that like raises.
Why
the
not,
stakes
man?
on
Don't you want to
something
win?
friendly. Yeah, but it's like if it's something friendly.
Nothing's friendly. Trust me, nothing's friendly. There was always something that sparks up.
Tubby asked, does it help if the driver is a really fat kid if it is a downhill race? Yes, absolutely. If it's a gravity race, the fatter the better within reason.
So I do got to end the show, boys, here in the next like 3 minutes at 9 o'clock. But I do want to ask you, sir, a very important question about your career in comedy, though.
Yes.
So you're doing this stuff on the side. You prefer racing over comedy, but
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
Oh,
I just said that I fell in love with racing first because I was exposed to it first.
Gotcha. Okay. So comedy wise, do you put the same amount of effort you do in racing into comedy?
Yeah, absolutely.
No shit. Okay. So you're like, you like you said, you're taking a little bit of a break though right now, going with comedy.
Yeah, so it's like when I say I'm taking a break, like I'm not booking shows, but like I still hit up open mics. I still practice. I still write new material. I still rewrite. I spend a lot of time writing. It's the same thing I do with racing, right? It's like I take video or I take audio and I listen and I watch and it's like, how could I have done that differently to maximize that? How can how do I shave tenths of a second here or how to get more laughs here?
Jesus Christ. So you're like right in on it then.
So I'm really like obsessive about, I have like a very like, I guess, jock approach.
Right. No,
racing and comedy.
I wouldn't say jock. I would say you have a very analytic aspect to it. You look
like
at analysis of like statistics and whatnot. How can I try not to lose? That's not jock.
Yeah, I try not to lose the art in the science, but like I also understand that there's certain things that like there's certain combinations of words that sound better. So I'll give you an example with one of my friends' jokes. One of my friends does this joke about like after a show, a female fan asked me to sign her chest. And I said, no, mom. And that's his joke. And I said that joke I personally think try it, change no to not today.
Okay.
Nice.
Because I'm very into like the rhythm and like the timbre of words. And so I think saying not today, mom, is a lot funnier because the rhythm and the timbre of it, but also because the implication is not just I'm not signing my mom's chest. I won't do it today, but there's a theoretical point in the future in which I
could do
would.
that. Right.
And it's like I analyze every joke I write like that.
Oh, shit, okay.
100%. It is because it's like music too. When you're rapping, like you want it to be in like the right
There's a
rhythm.
deeper fucking
And-
meaning to it.
And comedy is like when it's done right, you kind of like hypnosis in a way where you want a rhythm that's kind of going, and that's how you keep the people like locked in, and then like that group laugh and stuff. I've noticed just from going to shows. I never really did like stand-up comedy or anything, but I've realized that from watching. It's like,
Yeah, like as corny as it sounds, like the rap metaphor works.
right.
Because like you'll hear like big pun, right? Like dead in the middle of Little Italy, little did we know there were two middlemen who didn't do diddly. Like I want to write something that good comedy wise once.
Right.
You know, because that's
That's
fantastic.
poetry.
Yeah, that's poetry. So it's like I have bits that I wrote like a year ago that I'm still
Working on.
I'm still working on.
Exercising and reworking.
Tubby says, "Is being a comedian a disadvantage of performing a eulogy? I assume roasting is inappropriate."
No, it's welcomed.
I can't really answer that question seriously because I also do write, you know, as an auto journalist. So, probably the most important thing I've ever written in my life was actually a eulogy for my grandfather. My grandfather made it to 94. I hadn't visited him in years. I wrote an article about a story about his first car, which was a piece of shit Ford Model T that he owned during the Great Depression. And like, he had all these people all over the world that read the article that were like, that I was sending him the comments of people like telling him how much they loved his story. And I remember my wife surprised me with tickets to go to New Orleans to see him in February. And it was February 2020. And I talked to him on Christmas Day. And the way our conversation ended was he said, "Cam, I'm tired. I'm ready to go be with the family." And when he said goodbye, I still remember exactly the way that sounded, because the way he said it and the way the conversation had gone up to that point, I kind of knew that I would never get to see him in February. And as it turns out, February is when they buried him. And I wrote the eulogy while I was down in New Orleans with my aunt and uncle and my cousin. And then unfortunately we had to fly back the day he got buried. But my eulogy got read at his funeral. So like that was the most important thing I ever read or ever wrote.
Right.
Powerful.
Oh,
Powerful,
so
man.
where can people find you, sir, and all that good shit? Because I really want you to promote yourself here, because you seem like
thank you.
you're an
Yeah,
amazing man. Yeah, I want you to do your shit. Yeah.
On Facebook, Cam VanDerHorst Racing on Facebook. On Instagram, I'm just at Cam VanDerHorst. And on Twitter, I am at Low Class Yuppie. And you can also find me on Haggerty Media. If you just search for Low Class Yuppie, you can find a lot of my articles there. I write, like funny, irreverent articles about, my life as a car enthusiast and as a racer. They haven't published one in a few months, but they've got a whole backlog that they have to publish. But
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
It's just a comic writing about cars.
And you got
racing.
Seattle, right? You're doing.
Yeah, so I'm going to go
race.
drive the Lemons race in Seattle. It's not televised anywhere. I'll post on Twitter how we do.
Okay.
Yeah, please put up some pics.
Yeah,
obviously.
pictures
I
or
have
videos or
some
some
pictures.
shit.
Yeah, I have some pictures of me in the race car that I've shared on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook on the racing page from the Colorado race. And then if you know anybody with a multi-million-dollar multinational corporation that wants to see their name on the side of a race car, please get with me, because I'm trying to run 2 ARCA races next year. Or 3 if I can. So
The Saudis, man, they got you, buddy. They're trying to buy everything right now. So
I would race with Ray DeVito's face on the side of it. If Ray DeVito showed up with a small 6-figure sum, he would have his face on the side of the race car at least 3 weekends out of next year.
Emphasis
well,
on the small.
We can get creative. Maybe we get some like life insurance for Ray or something. And if he ever goes,
Yeah. Sorry, real quick, the Watch Watcher did it. Did it sound like? Yeah, sorry. The Watch Watcher said, "Did it sound like goodbye?" Referencing my grandfather. Like, yeah, it was one of those. I'm glad that I was mature enough as an adult to recognize that his goodbye was a forever goodbye, because a lot of people don't get to say goodbye to the people they love. Thanks for the
powerful.
compliment, Tubby. Thanks, D-Man69.
This guy fucks. What? All right. He's a good
Yeah,
man.
talking
He's a good
about me.
middle. He's a good Midwesterner. He's a good man.
I try, man. I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening to me ramble about inconsequential bullshit. That means a lot to me.
No. It was honestly, it was beautiful to listen to. And it's good just to have someone just, I would say, grounded in reality. Because we have some guests on here just fucking cuckoo out of it. You know,
I don't
that
know
makes
how
it.
grounded in reality I am when I'm, doing.
You know, we'll press you a little bit like we did with the wife and the kid thing. You know, we'll press you here and there or whatever else
I'll
goes
be I'll be
on.
completely honest with you. Like, I want a kid more than my wife does right now, and I think if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. And I
Gotta
know for a
continue that
fact that if it
lineage.
doesn't, I'm gonna regret it later in life.
Yeah.
But it's two people, right?
Yeah, it takes two to tango. That's what
Yeah.
they always say. But either way, Cam, it was an honor to meet you, sir. As always, I can't wait to have you on again. You're an amazing man. Just
Thank
so you
you.
know. And good
Thank
luck with
you.
your races in Seattle, as always.
Thanks.
And
Cheers.
Dr. Chow, it was a pleasure, sir, as always.
Yeah, cheers.
It was so
Cam.
nice
Till
being
next
on with
time.
you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I mean,
sir.
yeah, and I'll keep in touch on Twitter, man. You're a good dude, and I enjoy streaming with you. Good catching up,
Thank you.
and until next time, Lil Mir and Cam.
Till next time, sir. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Have a good night.